Recording. Sup, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and I'm here with Abzi. And
hey,
relatively tech
what's up?
less when it comes to issues. Podcast 500.
Oh shit, is it? Damn, 500th anniversary. Is it?
500.
Shouldn't we do something though? Like, shouldn't we do like a thing?
I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy.
Same, man.
Somebody was, like I was saying, somebody was in there going like, I'm surprised there was a podcast today, or I didn't think there was going to be a podcast. I'm like, it started right at 10:30, man. What the fuck? Come on, guys.
Damn.
We usually start late. We're doing okay.
The Elden Ring podcast.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
They probably thought we would be too busy doing Elden Ring.
Yeah.
They're talking about it internally. We have a bunch of stuff to discuss. Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, Elden Ring, Battleborn. Yes, I said Battleborn. Pacific Drive, Nightingale, Gigantic.
Wait, Battleborn.
I think I said Gigantic. Yes, I said Battleborn.
You said Battleborn.
I did.
Oh shit.
The old game. We'll talk about it. Sega Crazy
God.
Taxi is going to be a AAA game, supposedly. Dragon's Dogma 2, and more. So we're going to discuss all of this. Somebody says the audio isn't playing.
Oh shit.
Audio playing now? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we have a bunch of stuff to discuss. I do want to say thank you to all the new YouTube members. And what we've done now, we've changed the host. I've talked about this a couple times. We've changed the host for the podcast. So Spotify was deleting us, having all kinds of tech issues, and we would get it up and running, and then the very next day it would be deleted. So we switched ad hosts, and I'm adjusting some things. So people are saying that they're getting a lot of ads. Absolutely true. It does its own auto ads, which I go in and remove manually. However, we've now made it so that anybody in the patron who's $3 or above, we're just going to upload the podcasts free, with no ads there. But also, if you become a YouTube member, it grandfathers you in at the Discord level, which means you will also get these without ads. So if you want to watch us and then maybe catch the rest of it later on Discord or the Patreon, you can do that from now on. I was going to do it at $1, but I really looked at what we're doing and how I'm going to do it, and I figured I want to sort of see if, where people are with their desire. And it also, again, grandfathers the YouTubers in, or the people who are on YouTube who become members. So, and I think we tracked it at 4, 8, 16, 32 hours of podcasts minimum. So that's acceptable. 32 hours of podcasts. I figured that's worth $3. That's worth a cup of coffee. Yeah. That is dude, that's more than a day.
Half,
32 hours. That's a day and a half. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's what I meant. Yeah.
A day, no wonder my ass hurts half of the time we get done with the podcast. I'm like, oh, I'm in pain. Plus all the video game reviews and stuff, just sitting all the time. I'm glad I have a standing desk, but I don't use it as much as I'm supposed to. Do you have a standing
one?
desk?
Is it the one where you press a button and it just goes up?
But mine, I've got two. So this one initially started with a press where it's a it's pressurized, so it lifts up. But because I have so much shit on my desk, I had to switch it out for a motored one, so I could raise it up. Because recording equipment.
That must be a nightmare for like cable management shit, right?
It's terrible. Yeah. I've destroyed many a system when the wire catches, because it's like a cable. Yeah.
Oh no. Because dude, I have like a whole mess of wires, man. I need to really figure that out. I've been slacking on that shit, man. I have a fire hazard.
I mean, mine's bad too, and it sucks even more because it's like I have to take all this stuff down and then I throw it back up on Fridays. But between that, I'm doing the reviews, which is completely different hardware, completely different hookups, even. So it's sort of a nut buster. But I would suggest to anybody, if you can buy good hydraulic based standing desks for pretty cheap. And the new thing, dude, that I suggest everybody do, if you don't want to get a standing desk, get a standing platter. So what that is it sits on the desk. And it's a mini raising desk. And currently, actually, that's what I'm using right now. You just push a button and it raises. So if you have a nice monitor that's somewhat...
Your monitor and keyboard?
Yeah, you can use your monitor. I don't even have it. I have a pretty big monitor, so I can raise mine up and still see the monitor. It's awesome. So you can have a standing desk for like $40 instead of...
Why don't you get a standing chair to go with it so your chair can go up to it?
Well, I used to do that, but that's so bad on your legs if your legs are hanging. Like
it's
bad.
And, is that
now that we talked about deep vein thrombosis all the time, now I'm just like,
shut up, man! Don't say that word.
Stretching your hammies during the podcast. You're like, God damn it! Why did he mention it?
No,
I'm getting blood clots. I can feel them. But thank you everybody for joining up. A huge thanks for everybody leaping into the podcast leaping into the Discord, man. In the last couple days, we've had a huge number of YouTube people from YouTube come in and, getting them in there and sort of introducing them to the voice chat and stuff. There's been people that I have found have been watching for 7 years and they're just joining now. It's been a blast. And I want to say how much I appreciate that. We've had some awesome discussions some cool games last night. Hurt myself laughing because people were posting stupid dog pics. Always good times. So I just want to say how much I appreciate it. Let's move on from there. What have you been playing?
I started, so man, I don't know. I feel like so story-wise in Yakuza, I'm approaching the end, I feel like. I'm on chapter 11 or so. But
Awesome.
but there is gonna be, I'm 100% sure there's gonna be a thing, like a whole new like array of content that I don't know, because there's like the achievements or somewhere. I forgot where I read it, but there's like a thing, and I was like, I don't know what this thing is. And there's like parts of the thing, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be another thing. But yeah, I'm trying to get that done before at least Final Fantasy.
Right.
But I started, so I started doing this thing. I started Banishers. I started it in the beginning of the week. And what I'm doing with that game is playing like 1 to 2 hours every day or every 2 days and treating it like a TV show. And
Yeah, it's a good
dude,
plan.
it's like the reason why I liked Vampire a lot. It's this. I feel like this does way better. Like it's like a progression from that. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which is the dialogue and the voice acting. The two biggest things that I found is like complete in this double A title, that those two aspects, the voice acting and the dialogue, I feel like are just masterclass, like legit masterclass. I feel like every single NPC I talk to in that game feels real, feels alive. I haven't met anybody that's robotic. Even the fucking vendor. I met a vendor, and everybody has like their own thoughts and inputs and lives in the world. And the voice acting just fucking nails it. Like the scenes, the cutscenes, you know what I mean? How they're walking, how they're talking, how they act. You just feel like it's so real. So like usually with games, especially Yakuza, speaking of Yakuza, there's a lot of time they just keep talking. You know how in Japanese games they like talking and like deeply about like random shit, like nails and food and stuff, and you know, my ADHD kicks in. I start looking around. I'm like listening, but I'm like, look. But with this game, it feels like it's like when I first started watching Game of Thrones, where every episode or every scene where someone's talking, I'm just completely locked in. Like I'm just completely like it's like I'm watching like a good movie. It's like very, very quality level writing and voice acting. So that's something I really appreciated. Like I literally, my ADHD doesn't kick in at all. And it's just really, really good. I didn't expect a crazy moral dilemma in the first like mission, which was you know, first like side mission or whatever, which I was like, damn, these guys like go, like they should
they go hard.
You know, philosophy class is nothing, dude. They should present the moral quandaries in like you know, high school philosophy classes or whatever. But yeah, it's like very, very interesting, weird situations that there's legit like there's no wrong answer, no right answer, and you never feel like, hey, I'm gonna take the evil path by doing this, or hey, I'm gonna take the good path. Like you just don't. It's very, very gray, basically.
You can see both sides almost.
Yeah, exactly. I can see justification for all sides. Usually, like at least 2 of 3, you know, choices.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I was very impressed with that.
It's definitely a good idea to play it. I hadn't thought about playing it like as episodic. I mean, if I wasn't reviewing it, I could actually see that working out. I like some games like that where I mean, I like episodic games that are only 3 hours long too. So it seems like 2 hours of sitting down. That way, you're not tired of it by the time you turn it off. You sort of desire to return.
And I'm gonna
to it
have
the next
it
day.
like it's gonna be long, like it's gonna be a long thing, like maybe over like a month. It's like a show, like a season of a show or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like over a month or two, I'm just like constantly taking little bits of it, playing little bits of it, and it works really well because again, the quality of the moment to moment things that are happening just feel like a lot to take in. So
there's a great amount in it. It's cool because you have the major investigations, then you have the little mini hauntings. They all add to the story. You can do them or not do some of those. And I don't want to spoil it, I'll just say that definitely things can come back around later in the game. For almost all the decisions you make, huge changes can happen in the world with people.
Very nice.
Stuff like that. And this is something that, and by the way, it sort of always bothered me. I saw a lot of people saying in Dying Light 2 you couldn't change the world. And here I was in my review looking at how I built a whole new place. And I've completely abandoned one base, you know, because they all got killed and eaten and turned into zombies and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, is that not change? Is that not the highest level of change in a game? Now, maybe it's not the change you want, but it's huge change. What I worry a little bit with Banishers is that people won't pick up on some of the changes because they're not subtle. But if you're not a person who looks around the game world, if you're a person who mission to mission to mission to mission, it's actually possible to miss a couple of the changes that happen in the game world just because the game doesn't say, hey, I changed. I mean, that's not what the game's about. The game's about you picking up on stuff. So I hope when people play it, my suggestion to people who are playing it, when you make a choice, note who you're talking to, note who's left, note where they are in the world, and swing back around after a while and see if they're still there. Frankie Donuts is a member for 1 month. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, sorry, you can. No, I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say. Something I really appreciated as well. Something in the dialogue where, first of all, you can like talk to mostly anyone usually, and things change as you learn more info as time passes and dialogue changes. So you could go back to the same characters and talk to them. And one thing that I found, it's very, very small detail, but it just felt like it gave it like a breath of life, because usually in RPGs there are these like kind of formulaic approaches to dialogue that like make it feel like, you know, you go back to a vendor, for example, and you press the goodbye button and he's like, well, see you later, and it just kind of cuts, like it doesn't feel natural. You know, sometimes you're just like, it doesn't really feel too natural. But there was like, I was investigating this person's house and I talked to the person in the beginning before I did the investigation, and it was like a certain thing and a certain goodbye. And then after the investigation, like after I'm done with the house, I decided to talk to that person again. And this is so small. So like new things opened up where I can ask them about it because I figured out new info. But what's really cool and what got me for some reason was like the goodbye was different, because in the mission I was supposed to like go somewhere else. Let's say I was supposed to go to a barn. When I clicked the goodbye button, what he said was, okay, so I'm heading off to the barn right now. And that just small detail where it's like that goodbye changed. I was like, okay, that like it kind of, I just felt like it was more alive than others.
Yeah, a little bit of soft narrative there at the end.
Yeah.
So member Frankie Donuts, he says, "Sup boys, my 2 favorite days of the week, Wednesday and Friday podcast. Keep crushing it. Thank you very much, and thanks for jumping into the voice chat with us." Ethan Beveridge is a member. Spetsu, $12 super chat, gang. What's up, everybody? The people who are becoming members now, thank you, Jabat, for becoming a member as well. If you are having an issue with that, all you need to do is make sure that your Discord is merged with YouTube. You should be able to see that in the FAQ, and then it'll push you over to the Discord. It'll basically push you over, and then to my patron. Once you do that, it'll ask you to merge the Discord and the patron. It's pretty easy to do, but I know YouTube members have one extra step compared to the rest. Let's see. I think the problem is that they're talking about DLC. Oh, we're going to talk about that. People are already sort of mentioning the DLC question. Outcast New Beginning demo dropped in the PSN store for anyone interested. So I saw a bunch of people playing that, and I saw a bunch of people reporting that they actually were impressed, which I got to tell you is awesome to hear. Like there's something about
impressed about what?
Impressed in the graphics, the way it played. You know, it's still a AA game, but
Banishers.
Yeah, no, Outcast, because a demo came out.
Outcast. Oh,
and
okay.
With Outcast,
a
little
one.
bit like Dragon's Dogma, they weren't super popular at first, and so to see popularity starting to build up around them gives me it warms the cockles of my heart. It makes me like a little happy. The cockles.
Yeah.
Next up, let's see. ACG, did you see the classic Star Wars Battlefront games are being re-released? I did, yeah. It became a joke that PlayStation 5 was a remake or remaster machine now after today's announcements, but which I don't believe.
They should just remake those games, dude. They should remake them completely.
You talking about Star Wars
games.
Battlefront games? Hell yeah.
Graphics. Yeah.
Dude.
The old ones. Oh, man.
And I'm hoping and I'm assuming these are fully redone so that AI will still be able, be able to have bots and stuff and all that. And if all that's
bots
in there,
are huge in that game.
Exactly. It feels like it would be nice to have it remade because, or throw it into Unreal, so that it looks
the most
Unreal.
fun was that it was like PvE, it's like there's bots and then there's like players, and
it makes you feel like you can still do okay. It makes you feel like in the middle of battle, a robot might come up and ping the guy that you're fighting, which might hurt him a little bit. Titanfall succeeded in the same way. I like Titanfall's battle where there was some cheap ass AI running around, as well as
awesome,
you and your robot,
or like For Honor, right? Yeah, I always like that stuff. Like just mix in some stuff. Yeah, no, they should, man. That one huge, what was it called? Like conquest mode or whatever, where you go from like dogfighting into like ground fighting. Just so
land your spaceship and go forth. Let's talk about so good. Battleborn. I did mention Battleborn for a reason. If you own the Steam version of Battleborn currently, if it is in your library currently, or you follow one of many links that sort of unlocks the ability. If you've already purchased it, there is now a mod that fully allows for you to play offline in single-player mode. Currently, there's no PvP, which is fine for now. This is a self-made mod by a guy who put it together, and it actually does. I've checked it out, verified that there's no hacks, no wares. There's a couple Reddit posts you can find, as well as some news bits. And I want to thank the person who was on Twitter who responded to me saying I wanted Battleborn back because Gigantic is coming back. And I was like, they both came in sort of the same time, and Battleborn died a quick death. So Battleborn is available to play with a mod on the PC if you have the Steam version only currently. And it allows for you to play all of the campaign except for, they're called side objectives, or maybe they're called optional objectives. He hasn't got that working yet, but it's completely playable from beginning to end offline. So Battleborn is a game that, at least for me, I really liked, and I'm excited.
I only ever played the alpha test for it. They were doing invites for alpha testing. That's when I played the shit out of it. I played the shit out of that game, but then I never really played it again.
I really enjoyed it, man. I thought Battleborn, Battleborn is the same thing we're seeing in a lot of games. It was a service game before service games were service games, and it died the quick death. It is the death. It's the first death. It's the grandfather death that you see where it stops working completely, and that's the terror everybody has for these single players that have an online component.
Yeah. Remember Paragon?
So I do. I didn't play Paragon much. I played Gigantic a bunch. Well, no, I actually did play some Paragon. I played Gigantic a ton. I played Paragon. I played Battleborn, and I did some Overwatch. I'm just talking about games at that time that were all coming out and sort of adjusting. They were all, and Paladins, depending on how you pronounce it. Yeah. They were very good titles. So again, Battleborn, if you have the Steam version, it should still show up in your library. If it doesn't, there's some ways to get it to show back up in your library. You should be able to get it, and it should be downloadable. And again, there's a Discord. You can go to the Discord. You can download the mod. It's guaranteed, or not guaranteed. It's been checked on Virus Total and all that kind of stuff, and it does work. So that's a huge bonus for that kind of game, and it's something Gearbox should do on their own. Gearbox, if this guy can mod it, Gearbox could do it. Gamer does a $10 super chat. Let's show some love and give the video a thumbs up and support ACG. Thank you very much. Yeah, dude, I don't ask much for thumbs up on the podcast. Yes. Not only
you don't do calls to action that much on the podcast.
I don't. I'm very bad at it. But I'm going to do a call to action right now that does. When I post this live, it really, I've now noticed it hugely impacts the review numbers and who gets the reviews. It takes about 8 hours for my reviews to get picked up because, admittedly, some people watch me for reviews, and we do more podcasts because we do them twice a week guaranteed. So when this gets done, if you get a chance, go back to the podcast when it goes live and leave a comment on there. Surprisingly enough, your live transcripts, even if they're, stuff you do live, they don't count as comments, and that can definitely help the podcast. So moving on from there. Yeah, I should do more. And that's why I'm trying to do more on the podcast, the changing the host. I'm trying to get some of this shit figured out because I was telling you prior to all this getting started, fucking shit's changed. It's Wild West behind the scenes on some of these things. So you got to make sure you're sort of covered. That's why I left after the second time with Spotify. I was like, screw it. I'm just switching hosts. And it's turned out for the better in every way, other than a lot of ads. Somebody emailed me and they're like, dude, there's a lot of ads in this thing. And what's funny is I cut out a bunch and it said, listen to this. So most people will do a bunch of ads on purpose to push you towards their patron for free. I guess that's sort of normal now. And so what I'm doing is a few ads and then the patron for a little bit more. So you can sort of decide what you want to do. And by less ads, I mean 5 in a 3-hour period. So for a minute and 50 seconds worth. I went and checked out some other podcasts, 27 minutes of ads. So I'm like, no wonder the auto ad system thinks I don't have enough ads. I showed a picture in our Discord where I put in 6 ads and it said, you do not have enough ads, or your ads are not optimized. You need 27 more. And I was like,
you watch some comedian podcasts, right?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. Well, they do huge blocks in the center. Dude. A lot of them, dude.
Oh my God, the sponsors, dude. They go for 10 minutes, dude.
Oh my God. And and you just be sitting there going Theo, man. What the... But I mean,
please.
Obviously, they're getting bank.
Yeah. Holy shit.
For that large of a comedian podcast. Dude,
a million view podcast, they're getting...
The better held ones are 4 or 4 minutes. But some of the ones from Theo, he's done some weird ones. And yes, And you can tell it'll pop, and you'll be like, "Have you ever, tried to,
Thank God
paint your
YouTube
house?"
has
And
like
you're
the most replayed feature, so you know where people skip to now. And it shows you like a little thing, right? A little mountain, and you just skip to that, and it's like, yeah, it takes care of that. No.
Yeah. I'll just turn off the members goal for right now. Actually, no, I can change it while we're talking. Thanks for reminding me. So, what else do we have? Let's see. We have, let's talk about Gigantic for a second. So, Gigantic was a game that was out for a long time and then got canceled, sort of got killed, online game only, MOBA style. I really enjoyed that game. Got to talk to the devs. They were really passionate about it. Every dev is passionate about their game, though. But they did a good game. They tried to get it out. It just died on the vine in some way. And then a couple months ago, we all saw that weird beta, and everybody was confused why Gigantic was running a beta. We were like, what? This is dead. And so Reg, who's a fan, and I'm a fan, we were talking about it going, well, obviously they're doing something, and they've now announced it. It'll be for all the platforms, and it's $19. Not bad. Gigantic is, I mean, unless something's wrong with it, Gigantic alone by itself is definitely worth $19. Even now, it's got cartoony, stylized graphics, so it doesn't age as poorly as, you know, if it was like some crazy one. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see these games coming back, man. It sort of gives me hope. Gives me hope that we might see some of the others that, people... I mean, maybe it's a money-saving device, too, though, right? Maybe they're like, hey, we can roll out a game.
Well, we can just roll it out again.
We can roll out a game, yeah. No micros, though. They stated there's no other stuff. It's just, boom, $20. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see if that kind of stuff works.
Damn, every time I heard, I mean, over a couple of years, especially since 2013, well, a bit after that, live service got the just hearing that kind of was like, oh shit, this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as more and more games are coming out, there's like the way you can do them, because you obviously get those formulaic ones that like do the same exact shit with the same exact like kind of battle pass shit with the same exact kind of legendary drops and item level and blah, all that stuff that they copy. But actually, like this is what I'm looking at, this little bubble. And outside of that, like you could do so much with that just concept, that very, very, very broad concept of live service. You could do some really good shit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Dude, I am waiting for the day when somebody says this game is live service, or as I said a couple weeks ago in a video, expect them to change the name to anything they can other than live service. They're going to call it Revolving Universe or something. But I'm waiting for the day when a live service launches with so much content and so many reasons to be live service that it matters. And they, instead of saying, oh, it's a live service, you're like, oh, this is what it should do. If they want to be live service, this is what it should offer. I love a lot of live service games, Division, but you still go, why can't it be offline? There are things you can possibly do. That's the one thing.
You can probably do. I mean, Last Epoch just got released today, and it has an offline mode. I feel like they can still do that. I don't know why they choose not to, unless it's like just easier for them to have like one backend or something and not worry about like a different kind of thing. DRM to stuff like that.
A big one. Yeah.
DRM's like the biggest one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of drive-atars in multiple games, but call them shoot-atars. Like if I'm playing a multiplayer service game, I'm in the game even if I'm not in the game, and it plays like me, and you can face off against multiple Karaks if you want. There's all kinds of customization and sort of characterizations you can do of players that would be hilarious. That could be awesome. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with a service game if you wanted to do a service game. I don't mean you have to, but these guys who do service games don't really ever make you feel like there's a reason. You almost always look at it and go, why isn't there an offline mode?
And we've seen like kind of hybrid. I don't know if we call them hybrids, but like what is Remnant 2? It's not live service. There's no always online, but they still have DLC. Right, but you could still play it alone. You still host. I don't think it's server based, right? You host. If like a friend joins you,
is that a peer to peer? I don't know if that's.
Sure it's peer-to-peer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is peer to peer. Yeah,
which is very different than normal live service games. So you can still get away with like doing half and half and still deliver content over time.
Yeah, I would like to see it. Last Epoch launched a couple of hours ago. Peter says, yeah, it's great. I know a bunch of people in the Discord are already playing it. Tried to log in. I know some people were able to play for a bit, and then got popped out. Typical server issues. So let's move on from there and talk a little bit about Pacific Drive. I got some questions, or at least one. Sebring says, thanks for the Pacific Drive review. Is there a game it's somewhat like? I saw someone on Twitter say they heard it was like Subnautica, but I don't see it. What is it like?
What is what
Subnautica.
like? Sorry.
Pacific Drive. No.
Oh.
Subnautica. What? No, there's
No, it doesn't have that same loop
there's
of
almost
survival,
nothing in
right?
this game that's like Subnautica that I could even fathom. But what it is like is any game where basically, if you just consider the drives you go on as levels, it's like any game with procedural levels. That's really what it is. What they've done, though, is number one, they've wrapped the story around the procedural generation, which sounds stupid, but let me explain. If you lie a little to sell a lot, basically. They lie a little to tell you the fiction is about these anomalies that warp things in and out of places and move them around every time you go out. So that sells the player on why things are procedurally generated in some locations or procedurally adjusted. So that's one part of it. It's like any roguelike where you pick a level and you try to go through that level. And if you can't make it through the level, and there's other roguelikes we've seen where you go to the end of a level and you can go to the next part of the level or go back home. So there's nothing really that's surprisingly different about Pacific Drive, except that it's car-based and that the car is your horse and that they made the horse matter. So a lot of games will give you a horse. You might be able to name it. You might be able to train it. You might be able to upgrade it like Red Dead. But what happens in Pacific Drive is they treat it like a mini base. So, for example, in Pacific Drive, you can repair in the field and repair back at your home base. But your home base is where a lot of the supplies are. And you may not find the right supplies in a run to do the repairs you need to do. So it really is like a lot of other games. It's just that what they've done is they've sold it in a fiction and they've changed it to be a mobile base. And then they've given the mobile base a character and its own sort of personality with the quirks it develops, because that's sort of part of the story. I won't say much more than that. But not like Subnautica. Go ahead.
One of my favorite type of games recently, what is like I don't know if this is like I didn't look at the game too much. I bought it, but I haven't like played the demo or anything. But one of my favorite type of games is like you have a base. Let's say you have like a home area base, whatever. You go into like certain areas or certain like dark zones or like risky areas or risky situations, loot as much as you can. And there's like a risk versus reward. Do I stay here and loot more, or do I just like take what I have and go back to base? If I die, you die, you lose your resources, and then build up the resources back at base. Is this like that?
Yeah, and it also has corpse runs, which is hilarious. So if you die and you go back, you can find your body, and instead of a body or a grave, it is your car jacked up like it got its shit stolen. And I found that hilarious.
That's sick. That's
yeah,
sick.
it's just like they stole your tires. So the car is beat up, it's gone, it's your old car, your old paint job, but you go to the back and you can usually grab most of the stuff you had in this back locked case, which I found really good. But yeah, it's like that. It's
cool.
really
that's
honestly
cool.
that, and this is the thing, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Pacific Drive did not reinvent the wheel. In fact, one of the best puns I've heard about Pacific Drive, and I'm unhappy that I didn't say it myself, is Alan Wake. That is what it is. It is Alan Wake in many ways in its atmosphere. Pacific Northwest style looking locations, dark, moody, supernatural / super reality. And then in para reality, but then the break, the car part, and then of course you have your survival elements. But it really is that, man. And it really did. I'm blown away and pissed I didn't think of that comparison when I was reviewing it, because there are reasons why I like this game, and they are directly connected to the reasons I liked Alan Wake. And I actually do completely believe, like, Pacific Break would have been a perfect pun to make, because it is like that. There is a lot about this that feels like Alan Wake in mood and atmosphere. But it's like any other survival game. Yeah, you're grabbing stuff, you're constructing stuff, you're upgrading, tons of upgrades. Tons of supernatural things that sort of tie in everything, hint at stuff. Sometimes you'll get a complete answer. Other times you'll see a bit of graffiti and you'll be like, I've seen that graffiti, so that graffiti must mean this. So if I see that graffiti from now on, maybe it means this. Maybe it means this kind of character or this kind of anomaly is nearby. So, and there are some things about it I didn't love, but overall that game is phenomenal. I mean, that game, I'll be playing that game for a long time. A very long time.
So that's my next question. Is it like a game you just play and beat? Is it like a game you can keep playing?
You can beat it and you can keep playing it. I mean,
okay,
dude, it's so different in the way. I mean, it's like any roguelite or whatever that's got an ending. It definitely has, but there's so many customizations and so many things you would probably miss in the story.
It's like Cult of the Lamb in a way, kind of.
Ooh. I don't see,
because you go into like, you don't see any comparison there.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest. I can't remember much of Cult of the Lamb's.
It was like you go into like procedural areas. Oh, okay. Yeah, you go into like procedural areas and you gather stuff.
Yeah.
You kill enemies, gather resources, come back to your base. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you could keep
except
playing,
here there's rarely any killing. There's more running for your fucking life the entire time. And
from like atmospheric
anomalies, stalker. It's got a very stalker vibe to it with atmospheric anomalies everywhere, anomalies that fuck up the car. Like you'll get some really weird ones. I had one where it was jettisoning smoke out of what looked like the AC vents, so it was hard to see. And then it almost like panics around some anomalies and starts trying to get away from them and stuff. It's pretty great. But I loved it that if you put different tires on different sections, it actually simulates all that. It even simulates if you shut the back door on your head, which I've done because we had a station wagon style vehicle, and if you're in a hurry, you can grab it and shut it, and if you don't move your head, you'll hit your head with it. And I did that in the game. One of the first things I did was I was in a hurry and I was like, bam! And it took like 7 points of damage off. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's awesome.
And there's been times where I've done it twice because I'm in such a hurry because somebody's that'll be like, bang, bang. Oh my God, I just, it's awesome.
Very
and
cool.
I love your repair, like you'll be sitting down and you're looking and you hear like some siren that sounds like something out of the Reapers in Mass Effect, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And so you're trying to repair a wheel. If you put a summer tire on or an off-road, you get a ton of upgrades. So you get all these different tires, but you don't have enough to always put 4 tires on. So like an idiot, I was like, I just put one on one because I wanted to see what it looked like, and then tried to drive with it. And the moment I hit dirt, I was like, are you kidding me? It was impossible to steer because I had different tires on. So yeah, it's phenomenal, man. It's good. Performance is not amazing.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. Do you think it has more moments of solace than it does moments of stress and like a lot of shit going on, or is it like a good balance between the two?
It absolutely depends on what drive you pick. When you go to a drive, you can see a ton of stats. How many like
prepare?
It's all about preparedness. So you go to this map and it's like how many cars will possibly be there, how many residences, how many resources, how many of this and all of that. And as you unlock more, you'll find out more. And then you look and you're like, okay, I need car parts, so I'm going to do this drive. It's shorter, but I'm just going to do it to get car parts. But I got to tell you, the number of short drives I had that ended in an absolute deficit of parts is much higher than the longer ones. Because I would go on a short drive, and I guess I just wouldn't take care. And I'd make a mistake or whatever, and then you drive home, and your fucking car slides in, missing a wheel, and you're like, oh my God, now I got to put all crappy stuff on because all my good stuff has been destroyed. It's very, very cool in that way that there is some randomness to it. And the longer step-by-step drives, you have to get this baby. I call it a baby. It's not. It's a golden globe that's basically been sucking in anomaly energy, and you use it to teleport to the next spot or teleport home. And when you get it, no matter what, at some point the game's going to release this like ultimate storm that's going to it's going to damage you, and you basically are going to have to leave in one of two ways: go home or go to this other spot. But if you activate it, it releases that and starts the storm right away. So every single end of the level is like an action movie driving away from the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex made of death energy. And it's crazy because I was sitting there, and just like a movie, I had to make the decision to go forward or go back, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. And I turned on the music. I turned on like the right rock music for a montage. I activated it, and then I looked at my rear view, and you see the storm coming. And it was just, from that moment on, you were trying to find the portal, and you're just, it was just like the TV episode of Supernatural.
Sick, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That's what I meant. Like
it is a series of montage moments. It's like awesome, all those times when the A-Team got their vehicle ready. That's all of what that is. All the times where
driving
5
away
guys
from an explosion or whatever.
Driving away from an explosion, chases. 5 guys sitting around trying to decide how to enter a prison, or enter a bank. You have those moments because you're sitting down there going, okay, I can do this. I can go here. Okay, and you're scribbling. I mean, I was taking notes because there is a lot in the game. The UI is informative but cumbersome. And so there are times where there's things that are nested 3 deep in a menu. And that was not the greatest. There were times where I was like, ooh, this menu is gonna piss people off. It's gonna be a lot. And there were a couple people I saw when I posted it who were on Twitter going, man, that UI is rough. It isn't rough. I don't even know if that's the term they used. It's just a lot. There's data everywhere. And you have to almost sit and look at each. Stuff I like too, but this is not even the inventory management is here, but it's not even that bad. It's that every page has data. So you'll go to some arcane thing and it'll be like, do you want to hear about why the radio plays random music? You'll be like, okay. And it's a big lore dump. You're like, oh, that's interesting. But then you look.
Is it a rich world?
It's beyond rich.
Lore?
I did not find everything. Not even close. Not even. Yeah.
So there's like story to dig into, like lore to dig into.
Dude, you won't even believe when you open up, you go to one menu and it's not called lore. I can't remember what it's called, but it's got the sub menus. And first of all, there's enough sub menus you have to scroll down. And then when you open up a sub menu, it'll be like 1 of 64. You'll be like, oh my God. And they're all really deep. They're like,
they're hard with the writing, huh?
Yeah. And there'll be diary entries and you'll find shit. Like what I love is you'll find stuff like this big old tape player. And to play it, it takes up inventory. You have to drive all the way home. You have to put it in the tape player or the fax machine. It's a fax machine, sorry. So you get this big old thing. Then you have to put it in the fax machine. Then it's very analog in that way. It's almost like back of synthesizers on a digital DAW. Where you're like, why are you mimicking wires on the back of a digital DAW? But that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's like Reason. Yeah, it's like a VST in Reason where you're like, why does it say flip to back? And you flip it, and you're like, there's wires everywhere. That's the way this is, except it's more just in the HUD and in the inventory. It's phenomenal.
How many hours of game time did you play for your video?
Well over 25, but I don't know because I test a lot, and I definitely was stymied by the performance, so it took me a little longer. Because I was trying to figure out, I definitely tracked it to some levels have more storms and weather. And when that thing gets nuts and the weather's going off and you have one headlight because that fucked up and now your windshield wipers are glitched out so they won't work and you've got 3 wheels and not 4, that can take a while to get home because you're trying to nurse the car because if you go off the road, you'll damage something else and now you're really screwed and you got to figure out what to do. So there's some levels with a bunch of anomalies that I feel are too graphically intensive. So I went in and I turned them down to like high. I don't think I ever had to go to medium on the 4090. I think one I did, but I don't know if I even did it. I think I was just testing to see if medium and high, I could tell a difference. You know, that it's that kind of game.
Would you say it has roguelike elements or like a lot, like roguelike elements, right? So
it's very
kind of like oh, okay. Is it like Void Bastards roguelike or like Binding of Isaac roguelike?
I don't remember anything about Binding. Void Bastards would be somewhat close to Void Bastards, yeah. In that way, that is sort of. I mean, that's a really weird comparison because they don't look alike or have.
Like you go to procedural things, get like
you go to procedural things, come back,
still have
and,
your
and try
overall
to
persistent, right?
Yeah, and then you upgrade the garage and stuff, which is hilarious because that garage is a spirit of its own. Like you have a magic dumpster in the back that makes sounds, yells at you, and then consistently spits out the stuff you need. So if you have a really damaged car and you come back and you talk to the dumpster or pat it or whatever, it spits out usually most of the items you need to get a generic car going forward, which I thought was awesome. So it's sort of like your basic level 1 shit. But all of the items can have a ton of attributes. So you'll get an item that can't be repaired, but it's super powerful from him. And there's some other stuff. But yeah, it's great. And then you'll have broken glass, but a door that's fine. And that does different things. So there's icons that you're like, okay, this has a crack. So I need a sealing kit to fix this, but I don't need a repair kit to fix the door. I just need a sealing kit. Huh? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
there's a lot in it. I guess you could call those status effects. And there's a lot.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Quinter gifted 5 ACG memberships. Thank you very much. I did update the membership list. I appreciate it. So, let's see. It is in VR, not officially, but I do know that people have been testing it in the flat to VR mode as well. I was going to test that today, but didn't get a chance. Unfortunately, just didn't have the time to do that. I think that would be a great game in VR if your system can run it. I think that's a real question.
Mode?
No, like I said, it's not official. It's that flat to VR.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And people have been reporting that it supposedly works. I'm going to check it out today. No, I got stuff going on today. I'll check it out in the next couple days. But yeah, it's going to be awesome to sort of see people dive into that. Now, did that release today?
It's releasing
no, it's tomorrow.
on Steam in 12 hours.
12 hours, yeah.
12 hours from now.
I would love to know what people think about it because, dude, I mean, at least I haven't checked a lot of reviews. I've watched 2 and then read a bunch. Or not read a bunch, sorry, read a couple. But it seems like most people agree that it's a good game with a couple performance issues. But the performance issues aren't as bad. We just mention them, I think, because it's a driving game. So you see the stutter or you see like a drop in FPS. But yeah, it looks great, man. It's a weird game.
Is it coming in consoles?
PS5 only. It's a
PS5?
purchased exclusive. I don't know how long, but
gotcha. Weird game to purchase exclusive.
Well, I mean,
Kinda
and it
random,
could be
no?
forever exclusive too. But PlayStation, I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. PlayStation, without any major exclusives of their own, has been shopping around to look for third parties.
Shopping?
Microsoft shops around. That's sort of what we'd expect from both because they have pretty big gaps right now in their full releases for their own. Thank you, Sebring, for that. Master Chief says. So like you said, 2 of the upcoming games are for the Nintendo Switch. Do you think that's because the Switch will be backwards compatible, or is that confirmation it will be? Yes, it's confirmation it will be. Come on. I don't think Microsoft would release these on the Switch.
Imagine at the end of the life cycle, and it's like, yep.
Yeah. So I would say we've heard multiple people saying it's backwards compatible. I don't know their whatever their official rumor titles, how much or how right they are. I heard it was backwards compatible from somebody I trust, and I think that this is a good indication that it is, that those games are there. But I think I want to talk about that, man. So not only did Microsoft announce those, but then now they did their announcement where PlayStation's getting 3 of those, I believe. Grounded, Sea of Thieves, Pentiment, and Hi-Fi Rush. And there's crossplay on the PlayStation and the Xbox at minimum.
No way.
Yeah.
This is awesome, man. Yes, bring players together. Yes. Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it
great.
goes against what everybody else, wants.
They got to scale up their servers, man. They got to scale up, baby.
Well, Microsoft, maybe that's one of the things that dawned on Microsoft. They were looking at it. They were like, these are the sales we've got. They're not pushing the consoles, which is what we've talked about for a long time. They have very healthy ecosystems on their own, but they're not growing out of those because it's a game and there's 7,000 other games. So a new platform with 0 people playing it, unless they're cross-platform already, doing cross-play, I think their servers are probably going to be in pretty good shape. I don't really see too much of an issue.
And those games is going to be awesome, man. New players coming in is always an awesome
Cross-play is pretty
thing.
wicked. That is a really good thing to see.
Like Tarkov had it in like 2019. Other games have had it in like random years where it's like a game that's already released, but sees like a whole new surge of people coming in, either because it's a new platform or because like a streamer played it. And then like this surge of new players, I feel like overall is such a great thing. Sometimes it's a stressful situation for the devs, but there's this like environment where everyone's learning something together, and the old players, like the niche players, are like teaching the new players, and I don't know, I like those moments, you know what I mean, when an old game just has more players coming in.
And the most important thing is not only that, it's going to bring back players who maybe played it a little bit. Now their PlayStation Bud has one. That is a huge deal. Is you'll have more people. See, that's the thing. You get your brand new players, but you will get people returning. I return when I hear a bunch of people are playing Division, even though sometimes it's not even crossplay. So the idea that this is crossplay means if you find out your 3 friends who have PlayStations who wanted to play it or at least want to give it a shot, and now you've been playing it for years, but you haven't logged in, you can bet your ass. We already had people in the Discord go, hey, if you guys are playing, I'll jump back in. I haven't played it in a while. So it's like, boom, right there. You just have Microsoft.
I'm considering
getting another subscription, by the way.
Grounded, sometime.
Yeah, Grounded is good, man. Grounded is a very solid game. Grounded started out more solid than Sea of Thieves ever had hoped to.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Grounded was always, like, people liked it. Obviously, it wasn't, when it first released on Early Access, didn't have as much content, but people, I never heard, like, bad things about it, per se.
Yeah, Grounded seems to have sort of launched in just a much better style. And then Pentiment, I'm happy for that, because it is a weird, odd side game that you would just not see from a AA or AAA dev. So the idea that that's going to get more people, and then Hi-Fi Rush, I think a bunch of people want that.
Hi-Fi Rush is a no-brainer.
Dude,
everybody should play Hi-Fi Rush. Sorry, that's all. Yeah. It's an amazing game.
It is, and you see like I just saw somebody. I'm not going to say who they are because they're in a Discord, but they were like, when Hi-Fi Rush announced, doesn't look good, and then it was announced today, and they're like, I'm getting it. And I'm like, I know who you are, and I watched your last post where you were like, oh, it's dumb, and then the moment it comes through your system, it's great. Can't wait. But
Fucking dude, when they as like someone who loves rhythm games and music shit,
yeah,
I expected in the beginning because the game layers, it keeps layering, you know what I
right.
mean? And in the beginning, it's like, oh, I just have to press on beat, and then they start giving you like triplet beats, and then they start giving you like half beats and like 1/16 beats that you have to press.
Hmm.
I'm like, wow, I was so impressed. I was like, damn, they're doing way more than like just like on beat, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
right before I was playing that first person shooter that you have to like hell something where it's like rock music. It's like the guy from
Yeah.
System of a Down,
Yeah, it's
which
done
is
the
an
music.
amazing game, but it's like most of it is just like on beat or half beat. There's not
Hmm.
much like, but like Hi-Fi Rush goes like really dives in deep, and you have to do like combos and stuff while paying attention to that. And you start getting into a rhythm, and the more you learn, the more dopamine you get. It's such a fantastic, very progress. Like you progress a lot in the game. You just like keep layering mechanics on it, and just it becomes way more fun. You're not
Yeah.
gonna be like the first 10 hours aren't gonna be like the last 10 hours at all. Yeah.
I think that the best thing about this too is that regardless of all the other stuff, it shows. I mean, it shows that Nintendo and Microsoft, obviously people wanted that to, people wanted them to sort of start doing stuff together. But it also shows that a lot of fans are too closed off in what they thought was happening, which is that it was just PlayStation. And there was somebody who brought me to a thread somewhere, and they were like, people were talking about PlayStation, so all I posted was, it's not just PlayStation. I don't know why you guys are thinking you're not paying attention to the industry. And it definitely makes sense for a console with 130 million or whatever sold for people who want to release on that console.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of those are no brainer. I think, like you said, Sea of Thieves might be difficult on a Switch, which might be why
Might be, yeah. But Sea of Thieves in particular, I'm sure. I mean, it's I'm sure it hits with a lot of players. So just like having it on a like because Sea of Thieves is so big in like PC and obviously Xbox, but like PC, like you always hear people returning to it or having have played it before or whatever. But like I forgot that it's not on an entire platform. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yep.
that somehow I forgot about that, and a lot of people deserve to play it for sure.
Yeah, it's been exciting to see. I mean, does this mean that you might see some weird Microsoft Nintendo thing in the future? I don't know, but I would like to see more Raving Rabbids kind of ideas. There's all kinds of IPs that they own that you can see on, and it doesn't. I mean, especially something like this, and especially the way Microsoft has made it pretty clear in how they've explained it, that they're looking at games that really are done on the Xbox, like doing stuff, and have so. The idea of really losing out isn't there. I mean, it's just not there.
Sadly, I don't think a lot of people are buying new Xboxes. Probably
Probably
I don't know.
not, but they're buying subscriptions apparently. So, you still have that. And then we'll see on new hardware how that does. New hardware always has a tendency, despite even myself always worrying about the next hardware from any system, from PlayStation 1, 2, you're always hedging. Backwards compatibility, all that kind of stuff. If all that's in set and it's more powerful, there'll be people, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Plus, I think GTA, you'll see resurgence in console sales.
Yes. Yeah, you'll see. And most likely both will try to release their systems before that in some way to try,
So either a Pro or like a style or.
Yeah, a Pro or a. Well, Microsoft stated next year they'll show hardware that's the biggest generational leap, but they didn't say release. So maybe they won't.
Like the next generation?
Yeah,
are they moving on?
Sarah Bond stated very clearly that this holiday we'll see hardware of some kind. She didn't say what. Most likely, that's the cylindrical Xbox. And then next year, she said we'll see the largest hardware leap ever in a generation.
Do you think there'll be a time, or maybe next year, where so Switch is on its own thing, GPUs are on their own thing? Do you think there'll be a time where Xbox and PlayStation aren't moving from generation to generation at the same time, or do they synchronize for like dev's sakes or certain other, tech things?
I think that pro style stuff will happen.
Pro style stuff, yeah.
Major stuff usually is tied to the APU manufacturers, and they get an APU that just
that's
fits.
what it is.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of people, you'll hear, and you've heard it for years, oh, everybody must know what everybody's doing. Not only do they not, the reason why there is an alignment now is they switched to, your typical x86, x64 kind of thing, away from like the Power PC, like the 360 and others. Once you go to that and it's easy for everybody to shop the same die, that's why Microsoft increased their CCUs on the Xbox Series X, and PlayStation went with faster on some of their stuff with less. So they both had pretty much the same thing. It's just they both had slightly different ideas on what they wanted to do internally. That's when you look, and AMD, you shop AMD, you ask AMD, what do you have? You ask Intel. Microsoft's leaked documents stated clearly they were also looking at ARM. They're looking at everything. It only makes sense. You see Snapdragon doing VR headsets, and you have to look at that and go, well, if we don't have two screens to display and we want to hit, let's say, a sweet spot of 60, what can you do with the Snapdragon? I mean, there's all kinds of things that all kinds of processors out there now. And the VR market in particular is on a completely different skew than everybody else. Well, VR and mobile both have those, but the consoles are AMD right now. Hey, who knows? NVIDIA, right? There's always been rumors about NVIDIA, which would be hilarious because Microsoft and NVIDIA have just, had the poor relationship from the Xbox.
5090s? Do you think 5090s
no, it would never
will
be.
happen
No,
soon?
no way, man. Oh, you mean for PC hardware? I mean, dude, yeah, you got to know NVIDIA's ready to drop something.
Please, nothing like, just make it like, please, nothing like, don't lock me. I mean, we have frame gen. Frame gen is probably one of the biggest leaps, right? What else could they No, I just don't want my 4090 to be obsolete in it.
What else could they yeah,
I want it to be future proof. Remember back in the day where you buy a GPU and it future proofs for like 8 years or something?
Yeah, frame gen's big, but so is path tracing and getting that optimized. So because that's a step above ray tracing, but ray tracing optimizations haven't happened. They have now on the newer cards, but they're not on the consoles. So that kind of stuff is huge. Because if you're able to do ray tracing, let's say, at an optimized level that doesn't look terrible, all that kind of stuff, well, then that does allow developers to do more. Or, a developer can still bring a game to 15 FPS, though. That's why whenever you hear somebody say there needs to be a firm foot in the ground for 60 FPS, not only is it not going to happen, the only way it would happen is frame gen built in.
Maybe they'll make a 15 FPS game and then people will love it so much, and then years later they'll ask for a remake on PC for so long, and then it'll never come out for some reason, like Bloodborne. Like
Bloodborne, yeah. Micro stutter. Yeah, nothing is future-proof. Exactly. You future-proof for a couple years. That's what's been great about some of these, systems is they are future-proof for, let's say, 1 or 2 gens, and it's so nice. You saw a lot of people with 3080s forever, 3090s forever, even though 3090 was an expensive card. But
1080 and 1060 were favorite.
Dude, 1080 Ti was the bomb for me for quite a while. Really 1080 good. Ti, but the best one ever, I think, was the 8800 GTX. I think that's what it was. Is that right? And that thing lasted forever.
This is like 2 gens before they will move to like the 3-digit, right?
It was a long time ago. Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah.
Frame gen will be cool in the future. Yeah, frame gen will be cool. There's people who are looking beyond frame gen too. There's a bunch of stuff that I think people are not tracking. This is a paper. It's not been put. It's not a thing. It's not hardware. But so when you do frame gen, you basically you're hallucinating like GPT, that middle frame, and between 2 real frames, but you can take lighting data for ray tracing from that one. And so there were just discussions amongst developers who were like, could you frame gen every other gen just for the ray trace? Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff you could do for saying, like, I was just sitting there going, oh shit, people are thinking already well beyond me. Where they just start looking
like
at this
limit frame gen to like lighting or something like that.
Right. There's all kinds of weird stuff. And I
feel like shadows and lighting are like the biggest performance hits.
Agreed. Yeah. Right? Shadows would be great if somebody figured out a way to just frame shadows. I just shadows every just time I have them turned on. I'm like, I know this is taking 15 frames from my game. But it's all cool tech that's coming. But it's awesome, man, seeing all these companies sort of do this kind of stuff. I mean, we won't see it probably for a while from Sony. I do think I'm still putting my foot down and saying in the future, I do see Nintendo trying something. I don't know what. But I see Nintendo looking to do more and sell more even. And there's just something about it where I could see Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo has to see Sony do well on PC releases, right?
So
They have to.
I think their thing, well, I hope so. Actually, this is more I hope than I think,
Right.
is they're gonna be like the ones that are gonna be like, yo, guys, we got the battery. We got this new tech for batteries. It's gonna be light. It's
Yeah.
gonna last you 12 hours of gameplay on, you know what I mean? Or 8 hours or some shit. You're gonna get like, you know what I mean? On 4K gaming, ray tracing, 8 hours. No, I don't know. Hopefully, I just want better battery life, man. Like all around and I hope that's their new thing. But they're probably gonna do some other, you know, they like to be fancy with it. They like to be extra. Yeah.
Well, and we talked about this last Friday, and we talked about it on Wednesday. We talked about it multiple times, but you can't stare down the gun or the barrel of all these guns coming from every publisher and every game hardware maker saying they're changing everything and not realize they are. And Nintendo has stated very clearly that they are not looking to just reiterate the Switch. They've made it clear. They're like, now, what does that mean? Does that mean internally? We don't know. Does that mean screen or control or Joy-Cons being
Double
unclickable?
screen or some shit.
Double screen, 3D screen.
Yeah, because
like,
before, like, if you think about it, this Switch is one of the only gens where something in the hardware isn't really incorporated in the games.
Right,
Like
right. I know
Wii,
what you're
there was
saying.
the Wii U, there was like the double screen, which changed in-game mechanics. So
Right.
they didn't like the Switch. What had a touchpad? It didn't really, you know.
Yeah.
Then like there's the Switch where you can change, which is awesome. Obviously, you can play on TV or whatever. But maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll do like a new thing, like the Dreamcast screen, like a thing that just you know, games can incorporate stuff into.
Still think there's a high chance they'll have a camera pass through for AR.
Yeah.
And they'll try to sell you on tabletop stuff. They'll try to sell you on looking through your device.
Interesting.
I really do feel like that will be something. If they don't do it, one of these handhelds will do it in the future quite quickly, because we're seeing with Apple, AR is sort of not taking off, but there's excitement around AR. I could see them saying, just look, I'm not going to do it, by the way. That is not for me. The idea of holding a device up to stare through it to a table to see your Yu-Gi-Oh character does not entice me. But it does. They did, what was that? The one that you built on your own, the cardboard VR for the Switch.
Oh yeah, the Labo.
The Labo, they did that. They wanted VR since of Virtual Boy. They've wanted those kind of multiple group kind of things. I could see it happening. I could see them being. And by the way, that's not super hard to do. You just have a camera facing out, you know, from the back. But you're also looking at kids and family members. And Sony has an issue, or Nintendo has an issue with privacy. Not an issue. They're very, you know, they're more into the friend code stuff. So I don't know if they want you to have a camera.
Some shit. Remember that card game with the
PlayStation had the little camera thing,
the
and you could
PlayStation Eye, and then you can like put a card and you'll see a monster come out of it and stuff. Yeah, that was cool.
Reading some of these members, we got One Without Light. Welcome to the club. I appreciate it. Barry gifted one ACG membership. Thank you very much. I'll raise that up one. And we also have a Brandon Martin member for 1 month. Hey, crew, hopefully your day is going well. I'm playing Prince of Persia Lost Crown. Great game. Can't wait for Pacific Drive. Yeah, that is a really good game.
So good. But buy it so that Ubisoft can know, like, yeah, it's a good game, man. You gotta give your devs bonus or some shit.
Yeah, you gotta. You can't just arbitrarily yell
Whoever
into the
the
wind
combat
and hope
director,
someone's gonna hear you.
I just want the combat director of that game to get money, man. That guy should be loaded. Right. That guy was smart.
That guy should be loaded, just him. Be like, yeah, you the guys. Director. It's okay, but the combat director, whoever you are, let's give him some cash.
And whoever thought of the screenshot thing for Metroidvania, that guy should get a promotion or something. Whoever was like, hey, we should have it so that you screenshot and it shows up on the map.
Screenshot locations and stuff. Yeah, it was a good plan.
Because it's such a simple idea that no Metroidvania really had. Yeah,
worked quite well too.
Yeah,
I used it. I mean, jumping from there to something that's less happy, Nightingale. So, dude, the demo of Nightingale was man.
Yeah, that crashes and stuff, right?
Yeah, that demo was rough, and now it's released, and it's already not doing well in reviews. I don't know if now's the time to release an early access game with anything other than your best face forward. Like, I don't know, man. It feels to me like they are not going to be around very long. I don't know anybody in chat if you played Nightingale, but it's like the demo itself was just brutal. I mean, it doesn't look good. It doesn't play good.
The concept of the game is awesome, man. And
yeah. Did you hear that one of the major crashes was teleporting through portals, which is the major aspect
Which
of
is
the
the
game?
main. Yep, I heard that. I heard that they tried multiple times, and that's like the main thing that like I looked forward to. But and I heard that you have to be always online if you're playing single player, which again, and and then people are experiencing lag
Right.
even though they want to play
True.
alone.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah,
that
it's sad
shit
because it's not a time to, I mean, it really is we all celebrate it as an amazing time for games, but it's even, it means even more that your game needs to fucking, needs to have
especially after
something.
what Pal World and Helldivers and shit. You gotta.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and
Helldivers
is
has its own
still,
issues too.
Helldivers got its own issue, and it's diving in the Steam charts, and it's like, there's only so much a person who loves something can put up with. I mean, I've noticed it distinctly in our Discord where more and more people are like, I'm done. I'm not even trying. They're burned out, and then other games come to replace it, right? See, that's
man,
the thing.
I played on a weekend night. I played Helldivers on a weekend night, which was probably a bad idea. Because like usually like my hours, like when I can play games, usually it's not like when the server traffic is high. But I played on like I think a Saturday or a Sunday night or something.
Right.
And dude, I as soon as an orbital explosion hit, I crashed instantly, got back to the login queue, went in, crashed again. I was like, damn, it seems like the crashes are caused by server traffic, which is crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're just talking about this with a bunch of games.
Yeah, this is happening a lot. Yeah.
It's happening a lot, yeah. And you see Pal World nail it because they stated right up front they're spending a ton of money. They're spending a ton of money to make sure that and they had a couple issues, but nowhere near this. And they had, so many players and stuff.
Yeah, that's wild to me. Because like other companies have all the money in the world, and I feel like I always assume like it's way more than just money because like why else? I mean, obviously the networking code is ingrained with the game and it presents unique challenges, but I that's the only like thing I can think of as to why companies keep doing the same mistakes with server issues, because I feel like each one's like unique or something. Yeah. Because like why would anyone? Yeah. If
somebody on Twitter,
money,
I read this question, so I'm going to give it verbatim, but this is what you're talking about. He had stated, why is it that a game like Helldivers can't seem to run for longer than 30 seconds? And I mean, you I think hit it. It is independent. There are some things you can do, but and there's talent. That's one thing people don't want to admit.
Yeah, there's talent. Yeah.
Maybe the person who does Pal World, maybe the network, the person 100%. Who wrote all that, and what data it's giving. Pal World doesn't do what Helldivers 2 does. Helldivers 2 does all kinds of things where it shows you where people are attacking on the planet when you're looking down. There's some crazy cool stuff in Helldivers 2. So maybe there's just I mean, I'm sure there's a ton, but they're different. And there's talent. And I mean, I'm not saying one's not talented. Maybe somebody's normally talented and the person doing Pal World is super talented, or whatever other game we're talking about. But yeah, there's talent, there's money.
Yeah.
Peer-to-peer versus, server, how your server infrastructure is. I don't know, man. It does feel weird, though, that this is a Sony published, product, and it's having so many issues.
Sucks because the game is good. The game is fun. It's really, really good. And it like brings me back to Xbox Live days, because even the matchmaking, like meeting random people and just befriending someone and going on a bunch of missions with them and stuff like that. So it's just taking you out of it. It just sucks. It sucks more than it was like an okay game. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing. There's a reverse psychology where if you're pushed away, you pull forward. So it's like how many people would have already moved on if they had a somewhat soft, gameplay. They would have got their time maybe and already gone on to something new. It's a weird situation that's going on there. Yeah. I mean, and that's something you can see in consumer spending. It's psychology of consumers. It's all normal stuff that you deal with. It's too in the weeds for us, but it's an interesting discussion. I hope it just fixes its shit. It would be nice to wake up and not have another Helldivers 2 article.
We need more games with that push like communication. You know what I mean? That's what because that's players? What it reminded me of. Yeah, because like back in Rainbow Six days, Terrorist Hunt and stuff. We talk a lot. Like we talk with people a lot,
right?
And I feel like a lot of live service that comes out, like things like Outriders or whatever, or Destiny, or even maybe Division, like you don't really, unless you're doing the hard content, the raids and stuff. But usually, largely with those games, you're not really, you hop in, you hop out.
Yeah.
There a lot of, even WoW over the years focused way more on trying to let people play with others but not really communicate. So it's
Right.
kind of like you're playing alone, but there's just other people there. But I like those games that are like, they're really, really pushing communicate. That's why I love Battlefield 4 so much more than like the rest, because Battlefield 4 you had to communicate with your squad a lot, and it felt good to do that. And I feel like games are, going away from that a lot.
It's not just you feeling it. There's a great GDC from the person who handled the social aspect of one of the MMOs that came out. It's already gone, but it was one of the MMOs. But they were talking about the social element. So here's why. They want more people to play, so they give the options graphically of different things like emotes, but they want less people to be toxic. So they remove the voice.
So they could sell the...
So what happens is they can control the animations and the movements of the characters, but they can't control voice. Currently, AI is helping. But so what they do is they give more options for a flexibility and communication within the game that they can control, and they remove anything they can't control, which is voice, or they make it more difficult, they make it less useful, or they do something that makes it so that most people communicate with emojis only. And that's why, or animations. But that's why in some games this means fuck you, because it's become because people want to be toxic. And they find any way. So when somebody says, have a good day, you really know they're saying, screw you, buddy. And it's just because the zeitgeist changes that, because so many people want to be toxic that you can't, if they can't do it in voice, they'll find out a way to do it. Like good game used to mean good game. Now if I see somebody say GG, it's
GG,
always
motherfucker.
Sarcastic.
Oh, dude, you want me to blow your mind, dude? Dota 2 takes it a step further. I don't know if that was their intention, but like it's become a meme. I think I'm not really a Dota 2 player, but I heard this where either in a pro match or in like a really ranked match or something, you can spend money to like commend a player on the other team or like give them a thumbs up, but it's actually like a diss.
Toxic.
It's like it's very toxic.
Yeah. One of the toxic things that used to happen around like martial arts and stuff and in sports. So we had a gym, you do martial arts, but you also had your basketball court, you had a track nearby. You would have players buy other players' shoes. That meant you were bad at basketball. You were so bad that I spent a bunch of money to make you elevate to the point to where you're even worth playing. And the same thing would happen in martial arts. You'd be like, I'm going to get you some new pads, or I'm going to do this, and it always meant and so you would have to get to know somebody really well before you could like sort of understand that they weren't being toxic if they were just trying to help you. And it's a thing. People want to. It's just become a thing. There's no way out of it. But GDC always has great. There's a lot of videos on GDC's vault about social systems in games and why they want to control it with animations and systems versus open-ended. Why AI is becoming a thing. There's one game I was playing where you could hear the AI filter turn off if you tried to say fuck you or something. It would go like, hey, and it would replace it that quick. It could tell, instantly replaced it, and dipped your audio. And you're like, interesting. There's also systems now that are doing like 4-second delays for audio, so it can test what's being said and snip it if it needs to. So the audio's not even instant anymore in some games. That's why a lot of the people I watch stream, they a long time ago left the voice chats in game, and they all do Discord. Like that went away years ago, and it felt
Discord
like
definitely changed things.
You are right, though. It felt like a dying inside a little bit, where you're like, you'd remember going into a room and you hear, "Hey, hey guys," or blah blah blah. And now I'll go into any game, and I will have it on a lot of times. Nothing, just complete silence, because everybody's either so nervous about it or has it off.
Back Xbox Live days, it was just like everybody's talking, you're making friends, people are talking about having sex with your mother. Like it was such a live ecosystem.
That is live. SBZ $5 super chat. What'll happen if you meet your member goal? Would you show off your cat like DSP? DSP? What the fuck's DSP? Would you show off your cat? I don't know what any of that means.
Dark Side Phil. I don't know. It's some dude that some rager on the internet that had a bunch of some guy that like complains about every game he plays or something.
Bro, this came up the night before last on our pod in the chat. Somebody was like, "Hey, Karak, did you watch blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, I gotta point this out. There's 8 billion creators online. There is a very good chance I haven't seen whoever you're talking about.
He's like like old school guy, more so the old school niche type of guy who had like a big thing where he accidentally recorded himself doing something.
Masturbating?
Yeah.
I think I know.
He started streaming and then jacked off. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Twitch streamers who have sex and are like, it was on accident, while their viewership.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, banned for like 24 hours.
Banned for 24 hours, but they're, dude, it's like a leaker podcasts. You know, it's like, I'll do an apology tour, but I'll get 55 new subscribers today. It's the name of the game now. But thank you very much, Master Chiefs and Sebring. Those are good questions, and they sort of spawn some good discussion around games. And I'm excited, man. Gaming's looking good, and it's even better because today we got our Elden Ring, the Erdtree DLC announcement. June
21st.
June 21st.
June 21st.
So,
June 21st.
What do you think? Are you like? Were you excited by what you saw? Were you just like?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna watch it.
I watched it. First of all, the big thing I'm excited for, the biggest thing is the best part of Elden Ring was my first playthrough. The best part of that was exploring things for the first time, and I'm just really glad that we're gonna be able to do that again. And it seems like a whole new map, and you know, we saw a lot of cool shit, cool new enemy types, cool new moves, weapons, bosses. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. Also, as we all kind of figured, it's about Miquella, which was the only demigod that wasn't present in the main game.
And it's a whole new realm, almost as big as the original, if not bigger. You never quite know. And you teleport to it, so there won't be free travel between the two.
Yeah, I have a theory about how you do that. Maybe I won't go into it, but after a certain boss, there's a certain thing which has something to do with Miquella. And I feel like you like touch that thing and then you teleport. That's what I think. And that would make it easier. Well, I want them to, I don't know if they should, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not to tell you like what level is it balanced for.
Oh, you can say what level. You can certainly, that's not a spoiler if you like what level are you thinking?
Like if they say that, right? Just so I know. Like I don't know, because like it would be cool to know what level it's balanced for, because I don't want to be over leveled, under leveled.
Black Myth Wukong's coming out at the same time. I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that, Christopher. I forgot.
Yeah, summer.
Or as somebody said last night, Monkey Dark Souls, and it's stuck in my head from that point on. I mean, that is exactly what it is. But it was like, with this one, I saw what it looks exactly like what I expected it to. Like there's not much more to see. It's just time to see it. It's time to actually play it. It's been a while now.
Yeah, they worked on it for what, 2 years or something, or
2
maybe
years,
not fully worked on it because they released Armored Core.
Did they do
2 years? 2021? Right. No, 3 years. Wait, when did Elden Ring 2022? Right?
I thought 2022.
Elden Ring was 2022. Yeah, so 2 years. Yeah.
I mean, everything I saw looked. It didn't look. It didn't entice me in the. There's new stuff. It just sort of solidified, okay, this is what we expect. I mean, most of the rumors were true, and most of the guesses were true, I think, that we saw from different people. You know, like you said, with, this one, god, probably going to be about them. And it was. The idea that it was going to be matched on to the world, nobody really believed. I think everybody thought it would be a teleport of some kind. That's what's happening. So pretty much exactly what we expected.
I thought it was going to be in the Land of Reeds, but it doesn't look like it's in the Land of Reeds.
Oh, yeah, that is true. No, you are right. That was one.
Because there were a lot of reeds. Maybe Land of Reeds is in there somehow, but from what I read, it's like you're in the shadow area. Shadow
realm.
Yeah, Shadow Realm or something.
Jumping back into it, man, I suggest everybody bone up. Yeah, you do a little practice before you grab that DLC. Just like any Dark Souls style game.
Yeah, I don't know. So I want to make a new character. I don't know if I'm going to make it when it releases or a bit before it releases and play, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Probably a couple days before start a character. I'll probably do like a Dex character. Never done one before.
Oh, SBZ reminds me Black Myth is in August.
Yeah. Okay.
Black Myth
and then
looks
there's
awesome.
Stellar Blade in August too, or is it Stellar Blade April?
Stellar Blade, is April, I believe, because we were looking at different. Yeah, Nines, $10 super chat. What's up, Nines? Nice talking to you in chat, by the way. Yeah, so with Monkey Dark Souls, you've got Elden Ring. There's another one, Stellar Blade. I don't think that's Dark Souls style, but I mean, it could be.
No,
I don't know.
It's like
I don't think
Devil May Cry more.
Yeah,
type
it
of
seems,
thing.
or Bayonetta. That's what it. I mean, just
Bayonetta.
by looking at it, that's what it seems.
Yeah.
So there, yeah, the summer's getting packed because I'm sure that DLC is not going to be a small. I mean, it sounds like it's huge.
No, I mean it's a $40 DLC, $50 DLC. I'm expecting it to be, even though it's like the size above Limgrave or something. I think maybe it'll be packed. And we saw like maybe a Necron section or an Underworld section. Like we saw different vistas.
Yeah, there was definitely some stuff going on there. It was either different vistas or a very wide open.
Yeah. Or like layered or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say much. People can go if you want. There is a interview with the creator who talks about what's going on in this world versus the original world, which I thought was pretty cool. Some lore there about the tree itself that I thought was awesome. But I don't know how much. It's not really a spoiler on any of this, but I just don't know how much people want to know about it. So I don't. I mean, it's very difficult to know even what to talk about this. Like, because some people probably haven't even got to that character. I mean, how many people who bought Elden Ring probably didn't get past the first boss? A lot.
Oh yeah, even some people in our Discord were saying I just did the first boss. That's where I left it.
That's where I left it.
Like
that first boss was a bitch to me. I think that's the boss we talk about all the time.
Margaret,
that actually, the guy on that damned bridge before.
Margaret.
I think it's before. There was a semi. I just remember going
Margaret
like
and then Godric. Margaret was like the first guy on the bridge.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And for some reason, the first was way harder. Way harder. Yeah. And in fact, harder than a lot of the bosses. Like I smoked everybody else, but for whatever, I don't know why. It's just one of those things where it's your skill game, But it was funny. It was that moment where you're like, is it me or is it you? Is it me or is it the game? Like, what is happening? And then you defeat it and go on to the next one. And you're like, well, this is.
I think they also put him there because to show people that, hey, you can probably, if you want, you can go somewhere else and level up and come back. Right.
Yeah. Those games won't tell you, they'll show you that you can go away, right?
Well,
that's how I find a lot of bad guys in the game and where I'm leveled. When you go and you hit them and you watch that small sliver of life come off, and you're like, bye. You're all, okay, I'm not ready yet. Either you don't have the right
open a treasure
items.
chest and it teleports you somewhere, and you're like, what the hell? I'm in hell now. You hear all that like that music in that red fucking region, and you're like, what? Where am I? And then you try to hit someone,
and the wrong chest. Yeah. In any game, when you do that, it's even happened in Division recently. I took a right when I meant to take a left, and I went down the wrong space, and I shot a guy, and I just watched the health do almost nothing. And I was like, because I was playing with Game Dev, I'm like, we're out, we're gone. This is not the right place for us to be at this exact moment. But yeah, it's exciting to see, man. This summer, I mean, all the way till summer's packed. I know when I was looking at the game releases, winter, there's some stuff that's going to be announced, I know for sure, and then there's going to be ones we don't know about.
Fall.
Yeah, let's hope, right? I mean, I'm not
big games
saying anything. I'm just saying let's hope because I want to play soccer
for sure.
too.
Same. Yeah. But there's like even monthly, there's like one. I feel like there's a lot of games, but one big game a month somehow. So there's like one big game, like single big game, and then Yakuza to like Final Fantasy to like Dragon's Dogma. They're kind of, and it's lasting me a lot. Like Yakuza is still lasting me, and it's lasting me until hopefully I can beat it.
It is definitely a pretty packed, like a pretty packed year. I don't know. It'll be interesting next year to see if 2023 is beaten. I don't think it will be. But I was just saying, looking back on 2024, I think 2023 is hard to beat in just the sheer volume and the fact that like we were looking at that thing and it was the most top tier rated games of all time. Like it was like 26 or 27 that were top tier. But this year looks to be good. I mean, looks to be good. We're only in February, and there's already been. You got Final Fantasy coming out. You've got like some
January
big
was
titles.
Surprisingly already.
Yeah, January was surprisingly packed, man. I mean,
towards
big
the end
games
of it.
too.
Yeah.
And then March is packed because of stupid release dates as well as just a bunch of
same
games.
day. Yeah. Dude.
Yeah. There was something else too that somebody mentioned about March. Shoot, I can't remember what it is, but it's like
There's
4 days prior.
Oh, 4 days prior. Because on the same day, there's
Something
the
like
Peach game, Rise of the Ronin, and Dragon's Dogma 2.
And then Horizon Forbidden West is in there a day or two prior, a day or two after.
No way.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
No, dude. They did not. It's a meme. They're playing into it. They know. They 100%.
They know or don't care.
They're Dude, we meme about that. We meme about that. There's no way they just go off and do that, man.
At some point, you just have to give up, and maybe they're not trying anymore. I mean, Dragon's Dogma's there too, so it's just like
yeah, but they have to actively try to keep doing this every time, though. Like they
do devs or publishers commiserate on release dates? If you mean like Activision and Ubisoft deciding, no. There's what it is you'll see some be delayed, but no, they definitely don't. You just get games on a cycle. Think about it this way. Let's say you reset the generation between PS3 and PS4. That means those devs, many of them have somewhat the same starting dates when they got their dev kits. And if they have somewhat the same starting dates and somewhat the same developer time for a game, then you get a pattern being set up where in the same 4 to 5 months you have 2 or 3 games. And then over time, as you continue to do that, you just get what we get, which is the occasional games coming out on the same month, and now we're getting them on the same day. It's not unheard of. We've had it before. So
yeah, the ones I've seen is like Alan Wake 2 delaying after like a huge release date came out to the public, and as well as BG3 making it earlier for Starfield. Yeah, after it came out to the public. I don't think they were in talks before, because it would be like they delayed. They literally, the release date came out and then they delayed, or
I think that's really smart. Like Forbidden West, I think I would have no issue if they looked, and because they're a Sony title, even though it's PC version now, if they looked at Rise of Ronin and were like, all right,
Rise of Ronin is Sony, dude.
Weeks.
What, dude? It's so. Oh my god, I just thought of that. I was thinking Dragon's Dogma, but it's like Ubisoft shit, man. Just releasing 3 games next to each other.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough for all the developers too, because there's certain financial stuff they have to hit, and then there's like sales, or Black Friday used to be a thing. Remember when it was always the holidays, and now it's really not. Man, it used to be where you knew that August, September, November were going to be massive.
Yeah. And summer was going to be dead.
And summer was going to be dead. Yeah, all the time. And we've gone so far away from that, not only because of digital,
but because
people
what the hell
have more
February
platforms. Yeah, February is just an odd one. February is like, hey, man, here we go. Yeah, they just nailed it. And this is going to be an exciting year. I mean, there's great stuff coming out. So, like the Dragon's Dogma 2 demo got sort of leaked, but people saw on Steam there was like a package update that looked like free to all kind of thing, which is what we've seen prior in demos. I think Dragon's Dogma 2 having a demo is a good idea.
Yeah, especially for a game like that, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
I don't really know if I'll play it, though. I mean, I might.
Yeah, I won't. I don't really play demos, though, for games that I know that I want.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really.
Well, that's the thing that I'm worried about, is I'm saying I won't, but then I'm like, if the demo showed up.
That's right there. Yeah.
I might. Yeah. If it came up and it's like, yeah.
But like Final Fantasy, I didn't touch the demo, because plus, like, I can never trust Square Enix, because they always spoil their games. So I don't.
I'm asking chat if anyone does demos, but yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna be a wide open year, and there's great stuff. Like the other weird news was Sega had stated Crazy Taxi's remake is going to be like a AAA game, and Crazy Taxi wasn't even AAA when Crazy Taxi came out. So how do you take a
game?
Yeah, it was a great arcade game.
Amazing.
But you had to listen to the same Offspring song 1,000 times. Yeah, whatever that was. Like, I don't know how you make the idea of Sega wanting to make that a AAA title is a little odd to me. But I think it's because I wanted Golden Axe or something to be their big AAA title. Did you ever do Crazy Taxi when you were a kid, like on the Dreamcast or whatever?
Crazy Taxi, I did mostly in the arcades, and then I had it on like PC, and I forgot which console, but I definitely had it. I remember playing it on like a keyboard somewhere. Yeah, but I loved it. That was like one of my favorite games as a kid, for sure.
Peckley says something that you would think is true, but I don't think it is, which is a demo is a statement of confidence. And I look at Nightingale and go, not 100% sure that's true. But I do get the idea. It sort of reminds you of when people say reviews that are available 2 weeks early are a statement of confidence, and they absolutely do not always mean that.
If they do a demo where it's like you play the beginning of a game, sometimes what I would do is start it like an hour before full release and just like
smart
continue. Yeah. That's what I did with Final Fantasy 16, where I played it like an hour before release.
And you know what we've got is a lot of these demos that pop up that piss me off because they're like the demo save will not I mean, it makes sense because the save game data is different, but they'll be like,
sometimes
this demo will not, update.
Yeah, some demos they like to show you like the middle of the game where you have like a lot of abilities and stuff.
Yeah.
They want to showcase that. It just depends on the game, I guess. Yeah.
I've always loved the idea of that, but hated it usually when I play it because you don't even know when to use those moves. Your character's got 10, and then when you do go back and start the game, you've got one like fireball instead of the 77 moves you had in the demo. You're like, psh, psh, psh,
you know what I like, which doesn't happen often at all for like good reason, probably because they have to work harder. But demos that aren't content from the game.
Ooh,
like they are
man,
the game,
that would
but
cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
dude.
That does cost a lot, but they've done it a little bit before. I think Final Fantasy 15 did it. Where it's like the mechanics of the game, but it's a completely different type of thing. And some other games did it. I can't remember. Not a lot of games at all. Metal Gear Solid, you had to pay for the demo. Ground Zero, that was basically a demo, but
Crackdown had Halo something in it, right? Didn't Crackdown have a Halo, like, or was it Halo had Crackdown? With Halo. I can't remember one.
Yeah,
I can't.
Halo
one
came
or the
with
other.
Like Crackdown 2 or Crackdown 3. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Crackdown 2. I think one of them. But fuck, there was another game that did that where the demo was like completely different or like content not in the game. Or sometimes they change up the stuff, like the Infinite Wealth demo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You had abilities and like a certain situation where it's not really like you don't get that in the game when you're that
it's
far.
Like a trailer for a movie that the joke appears to be one way, and then you watch the movie and you're like, that's not even in the movie.
Resident Evil 7, right? People mentioned it. Yeah, the demo house thing where it's like a completely different experience, or like a prequel.
Yeah, like
I like that more. Cut. Yeah. But obviously, it does cost way more. Like they have to work harder for a free thing for sure. They have to do like something separate.
Basinski had dropped a couple prices for E3 demos. So if you just look at what an E3 demo is, it's about the same length of time as a demo, and they were saying like 800,000 minimum. For a small demo for people to play, just because you have to cut it, you have to remove the data mining ability, because that's another reason why a lot of devs don't want to throw a demo out. They're worried somebody's going to data mine the DLC characters coming, or some something. It happens all the time. Yeah, the data mining is almost. At times, I'm almost like, man, it would have been nice to be surprised. Whether it be Mortal Kombat DLC characters or something where. It's like, oh, we got Tekken 8. We're going to data mine it. Oh, we know every DLC character. You're like, guys, please, next time, could you please remove it? I was talking last night about Dying Light 2. A person online put together cut content by data mining. And, I mean, this document is well over 100 pages. And most of it has turned out to be the DLC. So, and I have it. I have that, and I have the Starfield one. And a lot of times you can really see where the DLC is coming, because once you read those cut content documents, you can remember in your head the story of the game, and you're like, there was a gap here. You don't think about it, but there is a gap here, or there's a weird wall here, or you can't go to this part of the city. Really or a faction that's hinted at, but you never really see them in the main part. Oh, they're going to be in the DLC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It looks like I like when demos show the gameplay. Alone in the Dark remake is also March. Yeah. Alone in the Dark demo looks different. Is there Alone in the Dark demo? I didn't play it if there was. Yeah. Crackdown had the Halo 3 beta. There we go. Yeah, I knew it was something along those lines. For Shizzle says Resident Evil 7 demo house was legit. It was, or he said something like legit, and I would agree. That was
in VR.
Good, me too. Can't not do that one in VR. That's like the true way it should be played.
It's a VR game. Yeah.
They should put Bloodborne on PC. It would sell. Yeah, dude. The Bloodborne on PC discussion is
Should
just
they put Bloodborne on PC? Do you think it would sell well? Hey guys, what are your thoughts? Do you guys want Bloodborne on PC?
I mean, I think we all know it. It's just this is the same exact discussion around Red Dead 1 and why it's not, remade. Yeah. It's the same exact discussion. It's like people look at it and they're like, what is going on? Why? And I have no clue.
It's like, hey, man, bring Zelda, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker into the Switch. And then they bring one that's nobody asked for. Oh, right.
Because which one did they bring? Which one did they bring?
They brought Skyward Sword.
They brought Skyward Sword. That's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Why? Just bring
we all
Twilight
know.
Princess
I mean,
and Wind Waker,
we all know they would sell. I mean, we both agree with you.
It's already did
it's so weird. Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah. Nintendo in particular with their dude, why that one? Wind Waker alone would have been. You just
Yeah, Wind Waker is like one of the most loved ones. I don't know. Yeah, that was weird.
Chris says, ACG, do you know when No Rest for the Wicked is coming out? What is that?
Oh man, you want to hear something sad and depressing?
I don't know what that one is.
So sad and depressing. No Rest for the Wicked is the game made by the Ori devs, right? And I was reading an interview.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's coming out in early access, dude. This year. Early access. I did not, out of all the game, I did not expect that one to come to early access, dude. So I gotta wait years until 1.0, probably. Hopefully not. Hopefully it'll be like a short early access.
Why early access?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like the type of, it's like a Souls like ARPG type thing. Like why would it? I don't know.
So Q2 is probably wrong. That's probably the early access. So when does it release? I have no clue.
Q2 That's early access. Yeah.
That is really too bad, man. Online only as well.
EA for a
Nine
while,
says,
whatever,
Nine says it's online only as well.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a different game than what I think it is gonna be. But what they showed, it just looked like a linear, like Souls-like, or like not linear, like something. Yeah.
I don't know. I got a bunch of shit, but like I said, when I first saw it and everything I've seen from it, I forgot the game name even. Something about it just doesn't rub me the right way. So
I loved what I saw. Like the new gameplay they showed, it was like I loved it, but yeah, I just early access just kills my soul.
Yeah, early access is a rough. For those for like the kind of titles that we see from them, I don't know why they would do that, but maybe there's something. If it's online only, then early access, I don't want to say makes more sense, but hearing the two together makes more sense. It doesn't make more sense to me.
Be an online game.
Yeah, if it wasn't online only and it was early access, then I think there would be a blah blah blah. But he says kidding. He says kidding on online only.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't. It's not. It doesn't look like an online game. Yeah,
okay, so it's worse now.
So it's worse now because it's like online. It seems like a game you just one shot. I don't want to do one shot games in early access. That's, I could see like Vampire Survivor, like those types of games where you just go in and play a game. Like it's, I could see those in early access, or like BRs or whatever multiplayer fucking. You know what I'm talking about? Like
I do. I don't.
That's why Gloomwood. Gloomwood was like a hard one to swap. Like that. I want that one to come to one.
Right. No, that's another one. Yep. No. Yeah. It's just there's all these terms now that when they're mentioned, it's not that they like make it bad. It's one more thing to dodge as a consumer. And early access to me is a big dodge. It's a big dodge for me. I have a lot of problems with early access.
Because like I feel like a lot of not everyone, but I feel like a lot of devs, if they release to early access and get some moolah, obviously it's for development, but they get more flexibility to kind of stretch out development. They don't like kind of, I love delays and stuff for sure if the game's not ready, but I feel like sometimes they could maybe be a little bit complacent and just be like, hey, we're gonna keep this in early access for 5 years and keep updating it. You know what I mean? I just want 1.0.
I want 1.0, and I also am not a charity. I don't see any reason a gamer should support the company other than the purchase. They shouldn't support the development of something they don't know. And I feel the same way about Kickstarters for board games and all that. It's just me. It has nothing to do with realism or anything. It just is distaste. It's not a charity. I don't support Sony or Microsoft by giving them cash so that they can continue to do stuff. I do it because the exact output I get is worth whatever I spent. So that means some people will absolutely be okay with early access. For me, though, I am not okay with a game I know will arbitrarily be not ready when I play it, and I'm paying for it. Even if it's cheaper, it's just not usually what I want to see, because a lot of times it'll change so drastically that by the time I really want to go around to the 1.0, things are so different that it's just not, like I'm burned out on it already. Or I played it and been like, I've already hit especially the repetitive loop. Or
ahead, for those those one-shot like campaign games where you don't want to retread the same ground if it's that like a type of
Baldur's
game,
Gate had this issue. For a lot of people that I talked to, Baldur's Gate overstayed that welcome to the point where people are like, okay, it's actually going to be difficult to start the game when it's out, so I'm going to stop playing the demo, or I'm going to divorce myself from it for these 6 months so that I don't feel that grind of the first 18 hours being on that fucking island or whatever.
Yeah. That's what happened with Divinity, and I learned my lesson. And I was like, nope, because now for whatever the first act of Divinity, it's just ingrained. Like if I do it again, I would go crazy. If I do it one more time, I would go crazy. I've done it like 50 times probably, and all those failed co-op attempts and stuff. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Could turn out to be great, and if it is, I'll jump on it. Like I have no issue with
fantastic.
that. I will. We have such a disconnect on that game, man.
Really?
That I don't see anything at all that looks even close to fantastic. You, and not just you, think it looks fantastic. And I've watched that multiple times. I've been like, what looks fantastic? The boss fight,
or like the one IGN, the new preview, I think from a couple days ago.
Yeah, it just looks impactful. Where the guy who sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing the talking. Loved that guy. That guy was great. That's not even me dissing on the title. I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm saying I've not seen anything at all yet that makes it look amazing. I did watch the boss fight, but to me it looked like a fight that we see in 1,000 other games that are like that. So it has, and then the placeholder art of people's faces popping up. There was a lot of stuff that I was like, what are they trying to deliver? It looks darker than I thought. So I would like to see how the art styles clash, because it's a very gritty game, I think. It looks grittier when he's running around, he's fighting that boss. And then when like NPC characters pop up, they look like Fable. Very close to Fable style in their caricatures. So there was this weird dichotomy I was getting from the two slants. And of course, those are probably temporary, by the way. But it was just when I was watching Arnold talk. That's what I call him. I don't know he had that very kind of accent. I loved him. He was, and they covered a lot. I mean, it's funny because I forgot the name, because I also think the name for whatever reason isn't sticking in my head. I don't know why, because I've forgotten the game.
It's like a saying, right? No rest for the wicked.
No rest for the wicked. Thank you. Yeah.
No rest for the wicked. Yeah.
Ori was easier just because it's you're like, what does that even mean? But yeah, it'll be exciting to see. The early access sort of turns me off. Hopefully, I'll just sort of cross my fingers like I do with all games. You never quite know what you're going to get. I'm still excited for it. I mean, it's just not top of my list kind of stuff. Looking at some of the chat we have in Discord first. Thank you to everybody in Discord for the awesome comments and continual questions. I wanted to tell Absy about this. I don't know if you got to see this. Did you see the thing I posted about fingerprints?
No.
China and a couple other nations are testing a new hack. America's doing it as well. This is researchers, not hackers. But they can currently guess about 30% of all fingerprints by the sound of your finger swiping the two-factor on an identification. So when you put your finger down, they're now able to use acoustics to guess the fingerprint of the person. And this is their first go at it. Yeah. And so now everybody's panicking, because that's one of the most legitimate ways of like locking things, fingerprint stuff. You can even get USBs with fingerprint lock. Yeah, so there was this article that came out yesterday that we were talking about in chat. I just found it interesting because everything's sound. Like now, it's why they say, make sure you're like not letting your keyboard be shown by your friends, because they could easily guess what buttons you're hitting by the sound, where it is on a keyboard, if keyboard buttons sound differently, and AI could obviously guess. But yeah, so they were saying that on finger swipes, they're currently at 20, I think it's like 29.3 or 29.7% of accurate guesses with a finger swipe. And I was like, damn, man. And I'm sure it's using AI, right? I'm sure it's using AI to figure out finger swirls. For sure. But it's like, damn, what are we going to do, man? Maybe we'll go to Star Trek Discovery. They had breath doors where they breathed on the door and it could tell who you were. Yeah, that is wild.
So they like, but your prints are so, I mean, I guess
minuscule and minute.
They can make different acoustics, I guess, because they're like,
dude, it's crazy. Oh, well, you remember what I talked about prior to the podcast with the audio in a YouTube video?
Yeah. just one decibel.
There's some crazy
it's just
stuff.
Insane, man. Shit's insane, dude. They can pick up on stuff. Yeah, I mean, AI is superior to us.
Let's see, what else do we got? We got Rick Gaffney. Hey, fellas, has a game's length ever put you off playing it, even though you know it's a game that you'll love because of tone, subject matter, and story? If so, what game? I ask this as I love Yakuza. Everything about those games is awesome, but for some reason I can't bring myself to start the last two.
The only way I remember it affecting me, like game length, is not in a single-player game. It's like, I think once when there was a lot of crazy shit in EVE Online happening, I was like, damn. Like, I think sometimes I'm like, I kind of want to get into that, or like it was like a different game where it's like a large MMO that requires a lot of time. And in my head, it's like, well, if you're people who play EVE Online probably play nothing but EVE Online. Like it requires a lot of effort put into it. That's where I'm like, fuck, I really badly want to be a part of this thing, but I just have to devote so much time to it where it's like that type of stuff puts me
Sorry,
off. But
Spetsu just said he'll use his elbow, and I think he's talking about the fingerprint swiper. I don't know why that caught me. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I apologize. That just made me
it's
laugh
okay. Yeah, but like a single player game, like a big single player, yeah, that's never really. I've never looked at a game and been like, oh, that's too big. Yeah, just like something like that where it requires a lot of dedication, and especially with an MMO, it's like you need it's not like you can play whenever you want. You got to be up to date with stuff. You got to be in there. So that's the type of shit for sure.
Let me tell you, I agree with you. However, the zeitgeist of the bullshitting that's gone on has caused me to worry, and then I've now begun to learn to ignore it. So Dying Light 2, 500 hours. 500 hours of what? We knew that was bullshit the moment they said it. Valhalla is big, but Valhalla doesn't take near the amount of time people say it does. Not even in, I mean, you'll hear people talking about this insane amount. Yes, if you want 100% it, or find all this, or find all that. But and it is a little longer than the other two, but it is not like some grotesque amount. And so what happens is the fucking toxic, I guess, I don't know what term it would be, but the people who just want to bitch about it will bitch about it. And I have to go search and actually find from somebody like you or somebody else how long it really took, because I'll hear stories and that will scare me. Like if I don't have time to or if I'm reviewing something and I hear a game's long, I'll be like, for example, EVE Online, I have a friend who plays it, and I'm like, could you please explain to me how long it really, like, will I get meat in this game at 20 hours? Will I get meat in the game at 40 hours? You know, because you hear the stories about EVE Online where somebody's like, I've spent 10,000 hours in it. Yeah.
10,000,
and that's not an unknown number. It's ridiculous, but it's a different thing. It's a different thing. And I think also it depends on what you want out of the game. Infinite Wealth is not super long, and you can skip entire.
My friend beat it in under 60 hours.
Exactly.
And I'm
you can ignore
over 100
sections
hours.
Right.
You can ignore a lot, and you can finish it in probably like 30, 40 hours if you ignore literally every time. But
well, you would
also,
not. I want to make sure he's not saying ignore everything, because you have to touch things. But there's certain aspects like the base building you can sort of just be like, and
I don't want to do this. Yeah, my friend. That's my. Yeah, you can say
hotels,
I don't want to do this.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, you can't do. You don't have to do the large side mini games and stuff like that. Yeah, you don't at all. There's another thing where new games that come out that are massive, that doesn't detract me. If it's a new game coming out that's massive, it's like, yeah, I'll get in this. But if it's an old game, especially with like a lot of new games releasing and I really, really want to play it, it's like, fuck, well, when I've been wanting to replay Red Dead 2 in its entirety for years now. For years. And I say, okay, this is going to be the, and then something, stuff happens, stuff releases, and I just can never find the time to replay Red Dead 2.
I'm identical to you. New games, in no way, shape, or form does the length, and I don't believe devs. They can say 20 hours, and I'll be like, I think it's longer unless you're really good. And they can say...
how long to beat is never accurate.
How long to beat is never accurate. You can enter in the number. Like, what the fuck? Like, this... And so, the idea of the new games... They never bother me, but you're absolutely right, because you're trying to shove in something you're trying to go back in time and grab something and insert it like a Jenga piece into your current life. That's what causes me issues. So you're right. When I hear some games 150 hours or whatever, and I'm like, well, it looks good, but that 150 hours is coming from something, including new games, including a new experience. So yeah, that's true. I would agree with you 100%. I don't think it's ever popped up other than me. Whenever anybody mentions time in a game, I do the head tilt like a dog, because I just don't believe anything.
Yeah.
You have to experience it yourself. And then what difficulty? We have that all, even on reviews. I'll be like, I played on these difficulties. Somebody will say how long, and I'll be like, well, if it's easy, 5 hours. If you turn God mode on DMC or whatever that mode is, I can't remember, auto battle mode or whatever, it's going to be a dramatically different length of game.
And how slow are you as a player? I'm like a very slow player.
I walk a lot.
Like, it's very slow. I walk a lot. I do random. I sometimes just like stand there, do stupid shit. So when someone says it's a 40-hour game, it's like, for me, it's like 60, 70 hours.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Real quick, I want to read this super chat from Hush Al Ghul. What's up, buddy? Thank you for always stopping by the podcast. $5 super chat. The studio says they want to release better games. Are they shooting for Yakuza Infinite, or smaller yet higher quality. I think when he means the studio, he means Square and Namco, who both have stated
I don't
this
think it has
very
to do
clearly.
with size. I think it has to do with the quality, right? I don't know if it has to do with size as much.
First of all, can we all
Did they
agree
talk about
that
scope?
it's hilarious that they basically admitted that some of their games have been completely lacking?
Yeah.
I just want to say that. It's like, I'm going to be a better person. So you were a shithead prior? It is satisfying.
So it's fine. We're going to focus
also
more on good games.
Yeah, we're going to focus more on good games. I don't know. You think the same thing, that maybe it's more about... What I think it's more about is... I think that it's also code or something. And the reason why I say this is because all the companies are saying stuff like this now, or changing their entire way of doing things. Microsoft, Sony, all these guys.
Do you think it's the BG3 zeitgeist?
No. I think some of it is coming from the COVID burst.
Okay.
And what's happening is the development schedules are going to something that they're finding they're not getting the revenue back in from the shorter, faster, let's take advantage of people being home. And I think a lot of companies did look at that. Higher up, get a game out. Higher up, get a game out, because there's more people. YouTube saw it. Everybody saw it. There was more people contained at home than ever in human history after like World War II. It just completely changed. Well, World War II people were leaving because they were at war. But this was the first time where people were solidified in their home. Remote working climbed, many hundreds of percent. It just, dectupled in the amount. So you had a contained audience. And I think that they're realizing that we're rolling out of that. And so there's some code here also for slower development. And smaller, you have 300 people. We've heard it. I just saw a really good article today from a contractor who worked on Forza. And they were talking about how contractors work in the company. They come in for 18 months, then they can't work for 6 months. That's something I dealt with since the starting of my job. They had contractors who would come in, and you couldn't continue to not steal a job. I don't want to say that. You couldn't continue to hold the job because they wanted to put fresh bodies in there. But on games, it's a little weird if your testers or something are leaving in the middle of the testing.
You need permanence there.
You need permanence,
you want some continuous. You definitely. I feel like with devs or even engineers and even construction workers and stuff. What I see personally, like in my job, is having people in the company for a long time, learning through you, not experience from someone else. That guy can have like 10 years of experience in another company, but like the fact that it was like he grew in your company, that's and he has synergy with people and stuff.
Or they're vested in the success of that. They're like there's
more of a culture.
There's more of a culture, but that's what I see is that some of this is a bit of code where they realize that, maybe...
And with code, dude. Oh, yeah.
Smaller.
With code,
smaller devs.
Man. Yeah.
Maybe smaller dev teams, a little bit smaller, a little bit longer, versus bloating up. Man, some of these companies exploded I remember in about 6 months into COVID, really bad. You would just see company after company. We're opening a studio. We're opening a studio. We're opening a studio. And a lot of those studios are shutting down.
I think 2023, I think most successful games in 2023 were games that were developed over a very long period of time.
I think the ones that have stuck around the zeitgeist for sure were long period games.
Like BG3, Alan Wake, what's the other one? Final Fantasy 16. A lot of those games were worked on for like 6 to 8 years.
Terrence says, I think more AAA and bigger, less small, cheap shovelware games. Yeah. And I just think I'm hoping AAA means that they're going to extend it. Also, I did talk to a developer at AAA that I thought was an amazing, really heartfelt discussion that they see the success of others in the AAA space last year. The big games that we're talking about, I think Axios or whatever, the website did a thing, and I think it was like 28 of the AAA games were the highest rated ever, and they went back and looked, and this is the best year. They see those too, and they're like, how do you get that? And I think for most of us, we understand that unless it's a Pal World style game, for most people it's a long-term game that you work really hard on, release without bugs, and then I guess release in a good time frame. Time frame is becoming more important.
Time frame is huge. Yeah, especially now. Oh my god.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I really like Borderlands 3. Bought it twice. Just haven't finished it. Borderlands 3, I actually liked it a little bit better than I thought I was going to. I didn't love it as much as I've never been a huge Borderlands fan. Were you a
Yeah, me neither.
like,
No, not
Borderlands
at
was
all.
always, I love the idea of the weapons, man. That kind of stuff was just crazy. I love the characters, but 3 was a little.
I was never like a big Borderlands person. Even
Really?
2, like the best one, like, I was never a Borderlands guy. I did weirdly with the one that they didn't like that much. I actually enjoyed, which was the D&D one.
Tiny
I actually
Tina?
enjoyed that one, dude. Yeah, I
Really?
enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was fun, man. It was some funny time. Maybe it's just
I
because of the
liked parts
people I
of
was
it.
playing
I
with
liked
or
parts of it.
something.
I
It
think
was just like a
Borderlands.
fun concept.
Do you think that maybe Borderlands has such a repetitive nature on purpose? You know, weapon loot, the how it's done, the look, that maybe it's just there's a refresh needed, or do you like, or is it quality? I mean, do you like, would a refresh, if they made a game that didn't look like Borderlands but did some of the same stuff, would you be more interested in it than Borderlands 4?
What is the thing? That's a good question.
It's like,
What would I change, or what would I change in Borderlands
well, I
for
mean, what
4?
would get you more interested in a game from that same dev? So let's say that, and I know you like D&D, but let's talk about Borderlands itself. So for the most part, you weren't a huge Borderlands fan. Would you become a fan of their next game if it wasn't called Borderlands and it looked realistic? Is it the graphics that bother you in Borderlands? Because I know you're probably a fan of the weapon loot, right? Because you're a loot guy,
Am I?
mostly. I think so. Because it's
I
inventory.
like inventory. No, I like okay, so there's a couple things. I mean, when I was back when Borderlands 1 released, I was
Yeah.
still in, I think, high school or something. I was in my Fallout craze at the moment. Like, I think Fallout 3 released somewhat around there. The graphics definitely, as a kid, I just want realistic graphics. I didn't appreciate
I get
like
that.
different art styles like that, except like Wind Waker and a couple others. Now it's not that for sure. Like, I appreciate all types of cool graphics, cool looks, cool art styles. The weapon loot stuff, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because I like the idea that a lot of guns behave very differently, and there's a lot of unique weapons that you can find that completely change up your play style, or you can make a build that like is really cool, that's completely different than someone else's build, or theory craft your own build. What would make me more interested in Borderlands is probably uh fuck, I don't even know, dude. I don't even know. I mean, I loved the gameplay. Borderlands 3, I had fun with my buddy, but I hated the villains, the main villains.
Yeah.
I disliked them a lot. I loved some of it. There was like a really, really neat region, which was like a huge battle royale kind of region. So I love those like crazy things. Maybe have like different, like, obviously it's all shooting people, but maybe have like more variety of environments. I don't know. Borderlands 2, the thing that killed me the most is the snow level in the beginning.
Just bland.
Yeah, it was because I think I repeated it a couple times because you know how it is with co-op games. You start a new co-op game with a
Yeah.
buddy, and then it fails, and then you start it again with a buddy, and then it fails. So I think I saw the snow too much, and it turned me off a little bit. But
Dude, I think in a weird way, Far Cry has
I
the
don't know
same
what I would
issue.
want.
Borderlands has the same issue.
Far
Their
Cry,
gameplay.
I know
is,
what I'd want. Sorry, yeah.
I was just going to say their gameplay is a particular type. If Borderlands
Yeah.
feels like Borderlands, I guess is what I'm saying. Very bored. There's something about Borderlands that always feels like Borderlands, even the
Yeah.
D&D one. And then there's something in Far Cry that always feels like Far Cry. And so I think,
Yeah.
depending on your experience with it, because if somebody new comes into it, they're not going to have, the same things that might bother them. They're going to need to be attracted to the new one. But what were you going to say?
yeah.
I didn't mean to.
For Far Cry, I know exactly what I would want to make me interested again.
What's that?
And it boils down to, well, number one is obviously change the Ubisoft map formula of outposts and like very repetitive outposts with not. You can have obviously game loops, repetitive stuff in there, but like with different contexts and very, very different, unique, cool locations and stuff. You can do exploration based stuff, kind of like Elden Ring or Zelda, where it's like there's not a lot of icons, but like you can find some really cool shit if you like go there or whatever. But the biggest thing as well for me is like they had something really, really cool with the early Far Cries. They were like new concepts where it was like obviously they're not super new concepts, but they like tackled it really well, which was like approaching combat the way you want. And I feel like since the beginning they just stayed there. They're like, yep, that's it, we don't need to like improve upon it. I feel like if they did some more with that and added more things to be able to do to approach the game the way you want in different ways, would be way cooler. Obviously, better AI. I think having really good enemy AI that reacts well to like stealthing and other stuff. They always like to do this thing, like this chaos thing where like animals are, coming at you and like different enemies and stuff and like chaos. And it'd be cool to have it where, factions are fighting each other and there could be like a little faction mini game or war or like something like AI life from Stalker. I don't know. I feel like they could do a lot with just the concept of Far Cry.
I agree with all that. Let me tell you the one fix. So I was one of the people I've talked to in the past who used to work for Ubisoft in the last 2 years. They've left, but it was I had told them my idea of how to not fix Far Cry, but maybe entice people, but still have some of the stuff that they have. First, AI was brought up as well, because you're right. Chaos became a thing, and now it's messy. Chaos is fun if it's in segments, but when I'm trying to fish and a badger attacks me and then a biplane smashes into another biplane when they spawn over there, you're just like it's
have
too
it make
much.
More sense. Yeah.
But one of the things I was stating was I would love in a Far Cry, you already know what items are in a lot of places in a Far Cry. If you take your cursor, it'll tell you like what animals might be there. There's little icons here and there. I was like, could we put the outpost down ourselves and then that place became safer? So could I put an outpost? What if I was able to build the outpost? Because in New Dawn, you upgraded yours. And I was like, what if we were allowed to have 3 outposts or something, and you could put an outpost there, people built in that spot, that area became safer, and that became sort of your thing. Like, what if it was called Far Cry Factions, and it was about you as one leader of a opposing faction and 2 others or something? I'm just spitting. But it would be nice to be able to control the world, because the one thing that Far Cry fucks up on, and it happens a lot in all of them, is no matter how safe you should be, you aren't, because they want to inject chaos all the time. So when you think I've destroyed this outpost, it respawns, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Why? Then why? And I get it. They want you to have a sandbox. That's great. Then let me put down 2 bases, or let me come up with a reason why there's a front and a rear base. And so I put a base up. That area becomes safer. My people can fish, or I can do the open world shit that I want to do. And then if I want to do it other places, have it play like normal, but allow me to impact the world. Because no matter what happens in Far Cry, no matter how many people you save, there's always some jackass in a 4x4. It just seems like that's that they can't get away from it. And it happened in Cuba too, where you go to the city in Cuba and it looks like hammered shit. It's one of the worst cities I've ever seen in a game. I don't even know how they thought that would be acceptable to put that in a game. It looks fucking revolting. And so you look at the rest of the world, which they do a pretty good job. Now they're switching engines, which is even better. But this is why I'm sort of talking about this, was because now that they are switching engines, it is time, or it is a good time for them to switch it up. And I know we've heard some of the rumors, some being true and some not, about a pretty big switch to timers being added to Far Cry. It sounds more like a Far Cry Primal, Far Cry Cyber, whatever, than it does a main Far Cry. We'll see how that mets out. But I would love for them to let us impact the world. I don't feel like I ever impact. I like some of the Far Cries a lot, but I never feel like I've actually saved anybody, because every 2 minutes some jackass is screaming for their life and they're being attacked by a fucking, like a honey badger. And you're like, oh my God, I got to shoot another honey badger? I just cleared this fucking area out, so let me affect it. And a little bit more would be a big thing. Be more involved in the game world, because if it's a sandbox, guess what you do in sandboxes? Build sandcastles. You can't build a fucking sandcastle in any of the Far Cries. So what? The sandbox is sand being mowed down every 30 seconds.
Like, they should focus more on like the emergent aspect, like emergent gameplay and stuff.
Yeah, I would.
Which I feel like they were trying to hit. They were trying to hit that, especially with like the old Far Cries. They were trying to hit
2 in particular.
Too much.
2, I think they tried, but it sort of went crazy with the fucking health systems
and they need
giving
to
yourself
chill.
a shot.
You're right. Yeah, like the 30 seconds every 30 seconds there's a thing. They need to chill with that too. I don't know. Make the world more interesting.
Ubisoft is one of the first to admit that they tracked player data and realized that every 45 seconds a player needs to see something new on the horizon. I am of the belief that they are using averages, which is actually wrong. So you'll hear something about the average this is this. Well, that also doesn't indicate that a good number of people can still be on one edge or the other. And so if you mow it to 45 seconds, we are all at 45 seconds. And that's what bothers me. Valhalla did it right. There were things about Valhalla. The world events in Valhalla were great. They need to do that.
Yeah,
they need to.
They're like Yakuza sub-stories, basically.
They were like, yes, exactly. Yeah. That was a good step. It wasn't a good step in a great game, but it was a good step in what I think many consider to be a good game, despite the length.
They were unique. A lot of them were just their own unique thing. Yeah. They were not repetitive at all. Like, they were completely different.
Yeah. And they've got close. Primal had you, as you did better, it subtly upgraded the base. You saw people playing better musical instruments. You saw more camps. But I want to be able to put something down and be the sandcastle that you promised me for now going on 20 years. And by the way, I still liked 5. I didn't like it enough.
My dream, dude, would be like a Rambo game, like your Rambo, but like have it be completely realistic. Like Rambo, but like you have
like
to
Metal Gear,
like your gun
with
jams.
camo and gun jams and getting in mud.
And mags, and you have to load up your mags and shit, and like the heat of the battle. And I know they won't do that because it won't be like appealing to a lot of people, but like an Insurgency Sandstorm version of Far Cry.
Anybody in chat, what would you like to see in your favorite game that is getting long in the tooth? So first of all, state what favorite game it is, or series most likely, or even a game you played a long time that's only one, but you wish there was something else in it. And what's the new thing you would like to see the game add? Because I think Metal Gear's got. I think I would like to see a new Metal Gear, but there's some things I would like to be changed. I would like to see a new Far Cry. Some things changed. Assassin's Creed, some things changed. But I don't need them to change everything. There's times, I don't know about you, but there's times where I'm so mad that one thing is in a game, and that one thing is so pervasive that it covers everything else. And for me, especially with Far Cry's, it's chaos. It's just, it's like it gets a little, it just becomes numbing, and nothing special if everything is special. If there's chaos, nothing is special. Every experience you can fight. They'll even say, dude, have you done this in Far Cry? I'll be fighting somebody, and you said it earlier. They're like, you can fight bad guys any way you want. Yeah, I have actually got in battles where I'm fighting guys, and then bad guys, a different spawn comes after me from the back, and you're like, there's just so many dudes. And it happened with Borderlands, the newest or not Borderlands. I'm sorry, the not Rainbow Six, Rogue. What was it? Wildlands and Broken. The next one after Wildlands.
Breakpoint.
It happened with Breakpoint, where it was just too much.
I think Red Dead does it well, where it's like, that's why those chaotic, well, not even, they don't have to be chaotic moments, but like those unscripted just kind of things that pop up, and they don't pop up all the fucking time. Like there's a lot of solace, and then like you'd be like walking through the forest or whatever, and then you see the KKK burning across, all of a sudden. So that type of stuff where it's scarce. I think scarcity adds a lot to it.
You need you need some downtime, right?
You do a lot, yeah.
A lot of games are so afraid of it, man. They're so afraid of downtime.
Very. I mean, look at Shadow of the Colossus, one of the best games. People love Shadow of the Colossus, and when you're going to the boss fight, there's nothing. You're just riding. You're just riding, going to the boss fight. I like that moment of travel. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of games could benefit from some of this stuff. I also think a lot of games are good. I'm just saying with these particular ones that are sort of, repetitive. I'd like to see a new Call of Duty game. Oh, do things in a new way. Yeah.
Man, when they talked about what they were doing for the campaign of that latest one that had like a 2-hour campaign, that was stuff that I would love for them to do. Like they were talking about stuff where I was like, damn, this is more like a kind of, you kind of can do stealth. You can do a bunch of different stuff. It's kind of more open. Dude, I was looking for like a single player campaign tactical shooter like Rainbow Six Vegas or something, and they're just not there. And I was thinking like, fuck, man, like I just want like a good ass deep kind of either military or SWAT story where it just like goes in and like more psychological, and you could do some maybe social engineering like Alpha Protocol, and then just have like this very deep hardcore tactical shooter element to it, and like a full campaign, not something like Tarkov or Ready or Not, just like but there isn't,
Yeah, and if they are, they're early access probably. I'm just guessing. And that might be another reason, because I'm sure somebody's going to say there is, but a lot of times it turns out to be an early access game, which then you start to question what systems are even in place when it first goes for sale or whatever. See, a lot of people are saying Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima's had some serious deficits, though, man. Like, now, having gone back to Ghost of Tsushima recently, and Tsushima, going back to it, and fucking, dude, switching those stances, man, is it kills my soul. Yeah, it fucking absolutely almost pushed me off of even replaying it. I went back and, it did, actually. I played enough versus as much as I wanted. But the moment I started realizing, you see a guy and you're like, I'm going to have to switch to the specifics. This is the dumbest fucking thing. And that's why I hope we have some kind of free form. That's why Ronin looks better in that way. Ronin does look pretty free form.
Dude, I saw a new video by Ronin, and it's way more than I thought. I didn't expect, like, they showed the mini games and stuff, and like it's an open world and a lot of old Japanese cities and shit. I was like, damn, I didn't expect. I thought it was going to be like more like Neo or something. Yeah.
I hope they can get it, whatever the term would be, polished up so that it doesn't get just dinged for that, because it can certainly at time look.
Yeah, it looked kind of better in the new trailer. It did have frame rate issues, but it looked graphically, it looked better than the other trailer they showed me. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it's. We'll see when it comes out, I guess. Yeah.
Anthony Beach, $2 super chat. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell would be great. Yeah, to see some switches there.
Right. Yeah.
Neo did stances in the way that it was like about the player using the stance versus the enemy
and you could do cool shit with it.
Your stance. I don't
exactly.
I mean, and by the way, for a first game, fine. What I'm saying is, if that's all in the second game, I hope there's some switches, because then it's going to feel like, we're stuck in rock paper scissors, which really was what it was. I mean,
that's why when people were dinging, obviously Final Fantasy 16 has a lot of issues. But people were dinging it for like, you should use fire when it's like an ice monster and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I don't want the enemy dictating what I use. Like, it's all different moves and stuff. I want to make theory craft my own combos without being like, it's an ice enemy, let me use fire. Like, okay, every JRPG does that. It's nothing special.
Every JRPG does that, yeah. Yeah, it would be, as long as there's not 100% resistance, I'm absolutely okay.
Maybe some.
With I've chosen a combo that is not necessarily 100% optimized because I like the moves. But then that's on me. I've chosen to do that. And but when you get the enemy that shows up that's made of ice, and you're like, I get it. Ryan Martin, $5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. I hope the stances are ironed out to be more fun and free, but I don't want it to turn into a Ninja Theory game. Hey, that's completely, absolutely what I'm saying. The stances killed me. They're the most rote thing in that game, and they feel completely mechanical compared to the rest of the game. Everything else in Ghost feels free-flowing and everything.
With the tutorial pop-ups every time. Hey, it's a shield guy. You should.
Yeah, those were. But the idea of it not turning into a Ninja Theory, like completely whatever style of game, I absolutely agree with that. It would just be nice to see them find a middle ground. Neo did do well, especially 2. 2 felt really good in its combat. Like, just very overall, I think Neo 2's combat is some of my favorite in a game. Like, I really enjoyed that. Spetsu,
it's my favorite combat in the Souls-like, for sure. That's a thing.
Neo?
For sure. Yeah, favorite Souls-like combat, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any. Okay. I have a soft spot for a game that doesn't have the greatest combat, but I just love it, and that's Surge.
Yeah.
The idea of taking somebody's arm back to your base is hilarious. Like, it's so gross. It's so gross.
It's like because it's like vertical or horizontal, and that stuff's cool.
Instead of going light and heavy, vertical and horizontal was such a different. And I know for some people it didn't resonate, but the idea of tearing somebody's body apart to upgrade myself cracks me up. Spetsu's super chat, $12. We need a new SWAT game. We do, for sure. It'd be nice to see.
I mean, Ready or Not is awesome, but like I want like a deep campaign about a military or a SWAT, like, I don't know, like a SWAT or military person that goes dark or something. Something like Spec Ops The Line, but like more, realistic and shit. Yeah.
I think when we look at all of these, the one nice thing is, for the most part, we're all going to be satisfied by somebody out there. Or some game out there. It's just we may not be, unfortunately, satisfied by the game we want to be satisfied with. Like, if I want Far Cry to switch, it doesn't mean Far Cry is going to switch. But they could do a different game, or somebody else could do a game. And we've seen games that are like Far Cry that, you're like, there's a lot about this that's Far Cry. But there's enough games out there that I think most people can be satisfied with something. What were we going to say?
Yeah. No, I found a new game actually, a trailer for it, and it's called Gray Zone Warfare. I think it's Gray Zone Warfare, and it's this like realistic
Terrible fucking
military
name.
shooter.
Shh.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry. That's
Re-
I didn't even know
yeah.
I was saying that out loud. That's a horrible name.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. It's kind of like the concept of a dark zone, and it's not like a full-on extraction shooter. It kind of is, but it's kind
Right.
of like Dark Zone from Division, and it's a like super realistic military shooter, and it's like squad, like 4 people per squad, 4 squads per faction, 3 factions in a game. But it's the interesting part about it, and there's loot and stuff, and you
Mm.
obviously you can extract, but there's no time limit. The cool thing about it though is it's PvE VP. It's not PvP focused. It's mostly PvE with they're really focusing on AI, which I'm really interested in. And it's like you start on the sides of the map, and it's like a big, I think 84 kilometers squared map or 40, something like that. And the further in you are towards the middle, the harder the enemies are.
Okay.
And but they have this really interesting health system where like your bones can get fractured, your organs can get hit, and there's a case where you can fall into a coma, and like a friend of yours needs to do like surgery on you and stuff. And it looks
Hmm.
pretty interesting. It's ex devs from like a bunch of, actually wait one sec, it's ex devs from uh like popular games. Let me just look for it here. um uh yeah, from devs from Kingdom Come Deliverance, from Arma, and from Mafia 2.
Damn,
Um,
that is a
yeah.
storied group of developers, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
That is
yeah,
not what I expected to hear you say. That's cool. That's actually
yeah.
excites me because Arma is one of my faves. Kingdom Come is hilariously good, even though somewhat janky sometimes. But that is really cool. Yeah, I've
Mhm.
heard about that, or I had, and the name slipped. It's terrible.
Yeah, the name
It's terrible.
is a bad
It's terrible.
name. Yeah, yeah, I can
I
agree
think
there.
we got so many games. It's just hard to beat. You're trying to fit whatever your storyline is into your name, into the game title, and you're just like, dude, this is difficult to
Yeah.
do. So I get it. I would never want to. It's very hard. And in D&D, you have this. You get a guy who makes a character, and you'll be like, "What's your name?" And that'll stymie him for 2 hours. Not the character builds. Not you can start at level
The
20,
name.
and you'll have somebody go level 20, no problem, fucking breaking shit, blah blah blah, and be like, "What's your name?" And he's like, Bill," and you're like, "Nah, dude, come on." And, he's like,
Yeah,
and it'll
yeah.
take him an hour to come up with a name. Admittedly, that's your
Naming is
front-facing
really
part of the
hard.
world. Yeah, naming is
Yeah.
hard. It is. I mean, and we get these games. That's why I do think that the complex, I guess I would say the compound names, the blah 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 of the blah blah blah, start to wear thin on me. Where if it is
Yeah.
just one word, it usually causes me to, like, okay, let me give you an example. Terrible name, but stuck with me. Fear. That's a great name.
I think it's a great name.
Fear.
It's just fear.
Dark.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
And it
even though
stands for
dark's a
something.
little less, whatever it stands. Yeah. And so sometimes those work better than, like Tom Clancy's Wildlands or whatever.
Dude,
By
I
the time
loved,
you get to the end, you're like, fuck, I forgot
there's
what it was
some
called.
like Gods and Monsters, I thought was an
Gods and
amazing
Monsters was a
game.
good name.
It's such a good ass name, man. But I hate the rising shit. I'm not a
So
fan
do
of
I.
the
And it's too
rising
many
shit.
syllables. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
be awesome to take some of these guys and have them go. And I don't know, I'm sure they look at this and everybody looks, but to decide how to punch something versus a big syllabled, Rise
Yeah.
of the Phoenix, Ronin deserves,
Oh my
and you're like,
God.
dude,
Yeah.
what? But
Yeah.
Gods and Monsters,
Ghouls and Ghosts.
Ghouls
Yeah.
and Ghosts, Gods and
Yeah.
Monsters just fucking rocks as a name. I don't
I
know
love
why,
that name.
but it's like, to me, I was like, Gods and Monsters, like, it's pretty easy. You're like, okay, I think I know what's going on. But when you hear like Rise of the
Yeah.
Phoenix, you're like, am I the Phoenix? Is the bad guy the Phoenix? Gods and Monsters, you might say, am I a god or a monster? Or they are, but you'd still know. Everybody knows Gods and Monsters. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
that's right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I like that. I think it's got to be difficult as fuck though to name your game. Like I
For
don't know.
sure.
It just
And
seems
plus
like
SEO, dude,
Diablo
and the
works too.
saturation.
Diablo's a great name.
Yeah. And you want to
Diablo.
figure out a name
Diablo.
where like you can like something
Oh, yeah.
recognizable, but if you Google it, you're not gonna get 100 hits of something else.
Chib says $5 super chat. I'm about 2 hours behind. Hopefully this gets to you before you leave. Curious what works better for you, YouTube members or patrons? Patrons is easier for you, and it's the same as YouTube members. YouTube members take 2 steps to get in, not 2 hard steps. Patrons take 0 steps to get in. So it's up to you. But they both help out pretty much. Oh, wait. Now that I think about it, YouTube takes 50%, and then Patreon takes 50%. So I guess Patreon is better now that I think, whatever. Patreon's better. But for you, what matters is ease of use. Yeah, man, it's got to be tough to do it. Moving on from there, let's talk about some other good news. So I got myself a joystick.
What is
Hitbox, joystick. It's the one where they replace the stick with buttons.
Okay.
So it's all digital. And it's unique, man. It's unique. I do see why a lot of people like them. I have a normal stick. It's a
It's called Hit Stick?
Yeah, they're called, So here's the box. It's called... Yeah, so it's basically just the buttons.
Oh,
yeah.
And the arrow keys.
Yeah, so I bought a cheaper one so I could test, because this actually came about due to this is proof I listen. But patrons, myself, Sleeve, a bunch of us were talking about Tekken, talking about different fighting games, and this popped up, and I was like, "What? I haven't even heard of that." And I went and looked at it, and it dawned on me I had played that way a couple times on my keyboard with like Mortal Kombat when I just wanted to jump in and see like how the graphics looked. I'm using WASD and stuff. So that's been interesting to sort of jump into a completely different control scheme. Well, not completely different, obviously.
What are you using it for?
I've been jumping into everything. Tekken, Dead or Alive 6, I've played a bunch of, and Injustice 1 and 2.
Nice.
More 2, obviously, because it's a newer one. Yeah. To try to see it. So you haven't never jumped into that
that's what my friend was telling me. I was asking him, for Tekken, do you recommend like getting a stick and stuff? And he's like, honestly, the keyboard works great. Like using WASD, you can do a lot with that. And I was interested, but that looks like the best of both worlds, because I love the big buttons.
That is why I sort of liked it too, because I'm accustomed to a pad, but I can get real accustomed to stick fast or the big buttons. And so I was like, I'll try this, because I already had a May Flash or something, one of the cheaper sticks just to mess around with. But yeah, it's been interesting jumping into a completely different control paradigm and see it. There is a game I'm playing for a preview in a couple weeks where I'm using the gamepad and the mouse. So I'm using the gamepad for the analog movement and the mouse for the stereo, the hybrid, and to try, just because it's available. I use mouse and keyboard mostly for it, but I was trying it last night, and when I was playing it, I was like, I can definitely see after a particular amount of time of getting really accustomed, because W is great because it's straightforward, and an analog stick, if it's got degrees of freedom, there's a chance, because of how you're holding it, you won't. There's more. Yeah, there's that ability to sway. But I got to tell you, man, it was nice, because the exact same thing we bitch about, I was able to walk near a character who was doing an escort mission and not run ahead of him, slow down, run ahead of him, slow down.
I love banishers on keyboard and mouse, man. I love it on keyboard and mouse.
I heard somebody had said you had told them to switch to keyboard. I can't remember who it was, but
Void. It just works well. I think when the camera is with the character, and you can you can pinpoint where you're looking, where you're attacking, it works really, really well. Yeah, I like it.
I did keyboard and mouse 40% and then pad 60. I don't know if the bug still exists in Banishers where the quick view change was bugged on the review version. But what I found was
I can lock on.
Yeah, you can lock on. But there on the controller, there's a quick flip, like God of War. So you can tap down and switch. 180? But if you do, it locks on the review build, it would lock you, and you could never turn right and left again. You were stuck. Yeah. So,
funny.
But with Banishers, no matter how high I turn the sensitivity up on the gamepad, it's never as fast as I want. And that's one thing that was brought up in the discussion yesterday about Banishers in the chat. Void brought it up that it could be the audio, but I think I can tell usually where they're coming from. But there's something about it that doesn't quite give you a lot of data where somebody's attacking from. And so a mouse and keyboard alleviates a good deal of that, where the gamepad, because of its slower turning, he was finding it difficult because he knew somebody was somewhere. And he could not have headphones
to pan the camera.
Yeah, and he was having to pan the camera. And when you turn it too high on a thumbstick, I don't know if you've ever done that, but you're like, whoosh, whoosh, you can't control shit if you go too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing,
Banishers has
because
some
when the
issues there.
camera isn't tied to the character, you can just face where you want to attack with the left stick, right?
Yeah, right.
With the camera, you have to turn, you have to pan around. Yeah, that's
Yep.
a good point. That's like a large reason of it. Yeah.
And do you know what
for
Reg
sure.
did? I watched Reg stream it for about 2 hours day before whatever. And when he was doing it, he just refused flatly to lock on. He missed some, but he was screw locking on, even though it works.
On mouse
for
and
his play
keyboard,
style,
I don't lock on.
Well, yeah,
mouse and
keyboard, I would assume you wouldn't.
I just look whatever direction I want to. Yeah, I just look at them. Yeah, yeah.
He was missing a lot because it's a little harder on a gamepad to do that in that
Sure,
game.
yeah.
I noticed in that game he's very front-facing in his attacks. There's not a lot of leeway. If you swing over here and you're aiming here, there's a good chance no hitbox will be activated. Even though you look at the sword and you're like, that definitely hit that guy. It doesn't really back itself up. But still, Banisher's combat is serviceable.
It's serviceable. Yeah.
It's sad we both said that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it is. It is. I like her
it's
jumping in with an uppercut is goofy.
Yeah.
You're like a spiritual uppercut,
Like,
but then you get later powers.
Yeah, and it's not the pull of the game. You get powers. It's fun. It's fine. I like the exploration. You know, there's a lot of ups
there's
and downs.
great exploration in Banishers, man.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I felt in Banishers they did something that I don't want to overuse a montage, but there was something that felt like they got the travel and investigations parsed out right. So I would travel a while, do a mini investigation, travel a while, sleep, travel a while, investigation, maybe a main bad guy, a scourge, whatever, and then sleep. There was something where when I explored, I felt like, yes, it's condensed. It's not a massive world, but there's something about it that just felt right. It felt like they had picked the best places for like the camps, and some camps are hidden or off the beaten path. It just felt like I never felt too much. There wasn't too much combat, and I know some people have complained that it's combat lean, and I would agree. I would say in that game, it's combat lean or less combat than you might expect. But I love the feeling of
I think the
travel.
world building is just really good. I think the world building itself is really, really good. I think they thoughtfully placed things where they are. Yeah.
I think the only thing I would say about Banishers is that it has the AA look almost all the time. Like there's maybe it's his animations. Well, it's for sure sometimes his animation, his like lack of moving his lower body. There's something like very
and some
tanky.
characters' faces don't look as good as like main characters' faces.
Yeah, there's like that.
little
It's almost like somebody said we can fix 10 characters' faces before we ship this, but there's
some
30 characters.
Have like perfect lip syncing, and then other characters have just like terrible.
Others don't. Yeah, others are just like flapping, flags in the wind, and you're like, damn, I don't know, I will kill you. I think it's great for them. I hate talking about this because I don't like it, but I mean, it's out there now. But like the Steam concurrent isn't very high for that, and that sucks because the game rated quite well. And
the game is really good.
It makes me nervous. Like, I don't know how their sales are, but their concurrent's really low. And I was like, damn, everybody rated this game good. I want them to keep doing
these types of titles, man. Nobody else. I feel like nobody else does it as good.
Here's the problem, though, bro.
Yeah.
Don't Nod has some serious missteps. And one of them is the last one they did that I reviewed. Lowest views I've ever seen on a video of mine in history. And that's Reverie, the point and click, like, it's a cyberpunk world that's about gods, and it's got like a very, almost like a South African, like an African vibe to it in the cities, where it's like a South African city versus, let's say, New York. And it's a point and click 2D. It's got a lot of morals and a lot of weird stuff. And it did terrible. And it just feels like...
It's the first I've heard of it.
Is it the first you've heard of it? Yeah. Dude, literally like 15,000 people watched the review, which for me is like, what's going on? I can release a random video and some people may not watch it because they're waiting for a review of the podcast. But this one, I was like, whoa. And then I went and looked at others like IGN stuff, no views. And I was like, okay, nobody's looking for it. There's no PR on it. But they've had a couple of these misses and I don't want them to go away because Don't Nod, dude, their writing is...
Dude, where
A+.
They're like AA, but they seem to have found like a massive pool of voice actors that are just like legendary, amazing, perfect voice actors. Where the fuck did they find all these people, dude?
And it's the writing. They're right. We were always talking about amazing, like, you have your solitary writers you hear about, like the Vampire Bloodlines guy and then Chris Avalon. Their dialogue writing. but something about Don't Nod is that level. Like as a team, they're good, man. Yeah. They're good.
Oh, they're
like
so
even
good.
if you don't like their game,
it feels so natural and real. It's like,
and it's interesting to the game world. It's like whatever they say is interesting. There's a little bit of flavor text here. There's always something that's interesting or captivating. Even in a game that I don't love of theirs, I'm like, oh, that's actually still. I think they had a miss. You know, they've had a couple misses. Yeah, like I said, man. Like when you play Banishers and then you play some other games that maybe have better combat or something, you're like, oh yeah, it's got great combat and that holds me through. But then you play Banishers and you're like, damn, like this writing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
They do something weird too, where like you said, you make a choice and you're like, yeah, you know what? That's not sitting well. Like either choice, and it's not always.
Nothing sits well. Yeah,
it doesn't sit well, but it also doesn't feel forced that they are like tit for tat. Instead, it just flows naturally from the quest, and then you get there and you're like, damn. And then there's the tertiary part of the choice you've made with her. So you have her choice, and then they gave you 3 choices. Did you also notice that's what's weird in Banishers? Almost every game we've ever played says 2 things: kill or live. That's it. That's almost every game you've ever played, and I can guarantee you that. But in this one, it's you have hers, but then you have banish, ascend, or usually kill the person.
And the vow thing, like, which adds a layer of like, okay, are you gonna stick to it or not? Like, because they even say you don't have to stick to it, and it's gonna affect stuff. So
there's other stuff. They
added like a separate layer,
even past that. Yeah, dude.
It's like making a new character in a D&D, and like if you're gonna stick to your origin story or like your type of character you did or not,
And then do you change later back to what you originally chose, even though you switch? Like there's a lot going on in Banishers. It makes me nervous because I hate talking about the concurrent because I feel that can cause people to not buy a game. In fact, I know it. I've seen people in our chat. And we're in a chat where I talk about this and I hate it, but I've seen people in chat say, "Oh, it's got low concurrent. Maybe that means something." And I'm like, well, it's got good reviews or whatever. Well, yeah, but it's got low. And you're like, oh, no. Are we? Because sales data right away would negate a good number of classics I love that sold later. A number of the games I find to be the best games I've ever played or the ones I love did not sell well day one. They sold well over a period of years, or they caught
Dragon's
on
Dogma.
Yeah, they caught on because of or Dragon's Dogma, where it caught on after word of mouth. And I'm loving the game. I'm 46 hours in. Jesus. Wow, that's a long time. Elo, $2 super chat. Hello, is $40 price for Elden Ring DLC justified? We won't know till we get it, but it seems pretty big. It seems like
we've been wanting big expansions for games instead of like small DLCs for a while. So if the content justifies it for sure. Yeah, just have to see.
I will say that I wish. Because it's a Dark Souls, I wish it had come out earlier so my skill level wasn't gappy.
Okay.
So I want big expansions
I'm starting
for Skyrim style games, but big expansions for Dark Souls style games I would love if they were a little quicker. A little bit quicker, because it's been a long time. The idea of leaping into that is like, oh god,
And you have to build up to it probably if you don't have a character already, And what did we just talk about? Before they give you their view code, start playing.
Yep. And what did we just talk about? The amount of time in a past game to a future game. So now you're looking at like, if I want to review this, I'm like, okay, I need another 40 hours to get,
to get to the DLC area. Yeah.
And Elix did the same thing. As somebody said, it's $40 for the Diablo skins. Yeah, true.
Oh, dude. The fucking Valorant has like $35 gun skins, $30 gun skins. Yeah.
Personally, again, I'm not too. The price is the price. We won't know until we play it.
Yeah.
And a skin, I don't love the cost. I would never say I love the cost of super expensive skins, but at some point, I'm just like, the market supports it or doesn't support it, and I don't have any touch with Valorant. I don't know if it's that good, and
that's why their guns
spending
in CS:GO. Yeah, that's why there's guns in CS:GO worth $5,000, right? Because
and CS:GO is all driven by the consumer, right? They make
consumers, completely, Obviously, like there's skins are rarer than others and stuff, but I mean, people find worth in a lot of weird shit. People buy Pokemon cards for $2 million or something. Or who was it? Post Malone buying Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
card.
On the other hand, his 2 million is probably like my 2,000.
Yeah,
or
it's like
200,000 maybe.
$2.
I don't know how rich he is, but
yeah.
And you always hear somebody's rich, and then you find out after they're done paying 80 teams and 6,000 lawyers, and what record labels give the person is smaller. So I don't want to outguess and be like he's a billionaire. I want ACG beanie, beard, and avatar or aviator skin, dude. There's always somebody who looks like me. Trust me.
There's always in every game.
That's
there's
become
an ACG
like a
character.
yeah. I'll always get somebody last night somebody posted, and all it was a beard, a beanie, and glasses. It was like a 90-year-old man. They're like, hey, they got old ACG in here, and I'm like, dude, I'm generic character number 7. Apparently,
you're the beard. That was like my character in Wildlands looked exactly like you.
Mine too. I will admit, prior even to the beard, in a lot of like those games, the military operator, once I saw Delta Force operators with the beards and scraggly hair to mix in some locations, that I stuck to that instead of the crew cut military hair. I was like, beard, mullet, looking all dirty and shit. I love those guys. I hope Diablo 4 adds offline mode. That's true.
Diablo 3 never did.
Diablo 3 never did.
Diablo 2 does. You can play the remake. You can make offline characters or online characters. So, Last Epoch is the same. Yeah.
I always wanted to become a member. When I get paid, I'll join you. Love your content. Thank you very much. Powder Cake says Wildlands. Oh, did I call it Borderlands or something? I probably did. I always get that one mixed up. Did you? Probably. I mean, especially when there's 80,000 lands games. There's like so many of them now. I don't even worry about the names anymore.
Yeah.
Prominence Poker, I played someone that looked just like Karak. Dude, Prominence Poker, I played... What day is today? Wednesday? I played that Sunday night. Prominence Poker is one of the best poker games there is. I love that. Do you ever do poker games? Like just sit back, play a video game?
Yeah, ever since I was a kid too. Like I used to play the Texas Hold'em on the Xbox 360 with like the cams. You know, that and Uno. Yeah, I love poker. And when it's a mini game in a game, I spend hours on it. Red Dead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, the mini games are almost more fun. They're saying that now 3 does have offline.
Does
it
on
consoles?
Now? Oh, on console. Wow, I didn't even know that. No. Yeah, I'm only speaking from like PC, but that's cool. That why wouldn't they? That's weird.
That is weird. Why would they do? I don't know. I don't know why they would do it on one another. Who knows? We don't know we have no clue what the companies are doing and why they do it. We just guess. And hope you watch the podcast. All right, some more comments. Let me look at Twitterverse, and let's answer some of the most important questions ever. These are from Twitter users. Rachel's Love says, I really want to get Pacific Drive, but your review and others are stating performance is quite bad. Hopefully there's a magical day one patch. First of all, I never said even close to quite bad, so I'm assuming you either heard many small bads and turned it in, you powered it up to a quite bad, or somebody else said quite bad. It was not quite bad for me. Goat says, can you explain to me like I'm dumb? Oh, why Helldivers can't just pay for more servers? We talked about that. Yeah, that was a good one. Tipsy says, as you've gone through life, has your exercise routine changed? Mine hasn't.
No,
mine really hasn't.
Mine hasn't. Yeah, but I found something that works at an early age. I think I was 18, and then I don't do the same exact like workouts or plans, but like I gained an understanding at an early age of what really works with me and how works for me, and I just do that. I don't try like different random shit like push pull legs and stuff. Like I didn't try to venture off much. Yeah.
In chat, as you guys have changed, have you adjusted your workout schedules? Do you work out? You should. If you don't, but did you change yours? I didn't change mine, but I do change. So I'll definitely get into workouts. I'll get into something for like 6 months, and then I always do martial arts. But what I mean is like we'll do runs, and then we'll do like long walks, and then because my brain sort of gets a little, and sometimes you just want to talk about games. So Cadiz and I'll go for like 3 hours, and we'll just yak the entire time.
and growing up, like I did a bunch of different, like I did Arnold Schwarzenegger's plans. I did the other people on bodybuilding.com, tried a lot of different stuff. So now I have an understanding of like, I mix and match, I mix different stuff. Like right now I'm doing some Arnold techniques of supersetting opposing body parts when he was doing the cutting plan of his, which is really, really good. And it really, really, like you feel the burn so much. So I'm doing that for now, and then I'm going to switch to something later, I'm just try out different stuff. When it gets stale, that's when I like switch out. Yeah.
I would say the only thing I noticed is at the age of 21, Sorry, 27. I swear to God, it was the day I turned 27. I realized I had to work out longer to maintain weight.
Okay.
And it feels like it was that day. But I remember so normally I'll work out for 2 hours, then Cadiz or Vanzo will come over and work out for an hour and a half. So I've worked out for 3.5 hours. In the past, I wouldn't have to. I would sometimes because I liked it. But I did notice the metabolism went like, not a ton. I was lucky in that aspect. But I was like, did I change something? I remember one time talking to my wife and I'm like, dude, I'm working out like a lot to maintain. And diet is a big one too. If you're like me and you're up at 3 a.m., anything you eat, just because of the way the human cycle, anything I eat is like, you're probably going to have to burn that off twice as hard the next day. Versus if you were up during the day and you had it, there's just some weirdness there
like,
that goes on with
now
me.
My nature is intermittent like I've intermittent fasted so much that now my nature is like I just am intermittent fasting forever. Like that's what just 16
works pretty
8.
well. The only problem that
fine.
has for me is you can break it just like Atkins or low carb, just like whatever they're calling any of these now, is if you do an event or something and it's an eating event, you always have that moment where you're like, okay, is this in my fucking eat window?
Reset.
Yeah. A lot of times I'll tell my family, like if they say, what time do you want to eat? I can parse it and go, okay, I'm more comfortable if I go to bed completely not full at all, then let's do 5 p.m., whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's that's the only thing. I think diets also change just because different foods are available.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, mom and dad had a completely different idea of what to eat or what cost money. What you could feed if you had a family, what you had to buy versus what you wanted to buy. That kind of stuff. Lance says, is this an MS only thing, an industry-wide problem that only happens to be reported out of these studios? I understand crunch can be a problem in the industry, but crunching because you have an 18.6 policy seems insane. So the 18.6 policy is it's not just in game development. Abzi and I talked about that earlier. Even where I worked, which was not game development, had an 18.6 because it was contractors. And so what they would do is they would employ you for 18 months, and then you absolutely could not hold the job. And back in the day, they would say it was because it's a temporary job, not a permanent job. And temporary means at some point it ends, and instead of saying we choose when it ends, they would hire you for a contract. Here's your contract. Contract work is not as crazy as people think. I think the big thing here is that it seems to be set for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the work I've done, and I don't have an issue with contract work. I think with games, the issue is, like you and I said, brain dump, and then somebody who's, it's weird. What if they had you move and you only have employment for 18 months? You'd have to look for employment while you were there because you knew you wouldn't have a job. It's,
also adjusting to people's codes and what they do. Like everybody has their own style of coding, how to put comments, how to structure their code,
Yeah, it sucks no matter what, but I think when I was talking about Square and Namco and those guys saying we're changing our development style, I actually do feel that it'll probably be smaller permanent teams, but I could be wrong. Or at least some people will do that. I said, what games are people looking forward to? Dragon's Dogma, not even close. Okay, that makes sense. Brian says, I can't be there live, but you can bet I'll be watching. All right. And then Joey says, which games will underperform? Because not all these games will sell well. That's a good point. Okay. That's a thought process. What game do we think is going to underperform out of all the big titles?
Just don't say Stalker or Dragon's Dogma. Those two have to be in their own little safe zone, okay? But other than that, I hope Wukong doesn't, but it can. If it's not as good. Do
you think Wukong though is at the level of a Dragon's Dogma hype? Because I don't. I think it's at a hype of it looks good, but I don't think it's at a hype of anything other than that.
It's like it's got hype because of like it's the game that's been shown over and over again for years that never got a release date. Yeah, it's that the people have been waiting for it for long, but maybe too long now that people aren't thinking of it as much anymore.
I think Rise of Ronin, that's what Rick says, and that is the one that I think could underperform.
I think that will underperform. I think because if anything, because of the date it's releasing. Timing. Yeah.
Timing is just one of those things, man. Yeah, that's a good question, man. We normally don't talk about that stuff, not even to stop from being negative. We just don't normally talk about this stuff. It's a good question. Let's see. Tristan says, I told my wife years ago, around 2018, that Jim Ryan had screwed PlayStation players with his dreams of Fortnite money. Unfortunately, I was proven correct, and it will be years, probably the better part of a decade, before his bad business practices are fully realized. I do not agree. At all. That's just me.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I don't think that... well, you could say that having them all do service games might be bad, but the stymieing of Microsoft, the putting the foot down, all that kind of stuff helped, smash that competitor. Sony's not the only one cutting, and like announcing lower sales of anything. They're one of thousands of companies doing it. I don't necessarily think that's any connection whatsoever to Jim, personally. And, he seems like he's a poop head, so it's not like I like him, but there's a lot of companies doing it. It seems a little, we all don't like service games. I'm trying to separate what I don't like with what I think about the business decision. But again, I don't know the internal stuff either. So who knows? Maybe you're right and I'm wrong. It's completely possible. And then last question in Twitter. No, people are talking about the Battlefront remake. Damn, we got a lot. VG Watcher says, lots of people are disappointed in first parties right now, but third parties are killing it. Do you believe that?
Yeah,
I think that might be fair. Yeah.
Other than Nintendo, because Nintendo's been fucking killing it. I think Nintendo's been killing it with their first party. Sony, I think, is the one that's super underperforming.
Sorry, Abzi. You are right.
What's up?
Nintendo Nintendo demolishes that comment.
Yeah. Nintendo has been killing it, but I think Sony first party is like most. I mean, what did we get? I mean, other than Returnal in the beginning, most first parties seem to be remakes or sequels that didn't change much from their, like Spider-Man 2 didn't change that much from Spider-Man 1. God of War Ragnarok, I mean, it was released on the PS4 as well, but it was still kind of the same. Like back in PS4, when Ghost of Tsushima came out, when God of War came out, they were like new concepts, new games, not new IP, don't have to be new IPs, but they were like a step, like, they were different. They were completely, like, God of War completely changed the stuff. And they had like all these different titles, but I feel like I don't think, I can't remember what did Sony release this gen?
Well, a bunch of games. What do you mean? What did Sony release?
Like first party? Like this generation? That isn't like a 60 FPS rehash of like an old game.
Well, okay, so I guess that's the discussion. His question is simply, our first party, are they not as delivering as hard, and third party are? It's sort of disingenuous because first party is maybe a handful, maybe 24 titles, where third party is about 2,500
obviously,
titles.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then you're right about the sequels, but those sequels are successful in their own right and sell in their own right and review quite well in their own right. So you and I may look at Spider-Man and say, I love Ragnarok. I love Spider-Man.
I really like
too,
Spider-Man.
And you love Ragnarok.
Yeah. But I like those games for sure.
So I wouldn't count those as like, and technically technically Zelda's a sequel. So if we start removing sequels from the discussion, then we're removing
not sequels
Pikmin
completely
4 as well.
Just sequels that were so close to the I mean, obviously Tears of the Kingdom was very close to it. It's in the same area. They added a whole new element and shit for sure, but they also I don't know. I mean,
Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying once you start getting in the weeds, then what happens is you get the arbitrary cutting off. It's almost like whenever you and I are talking about games and somebody's like, well, I just won't buy a game that blah, blah, blah.
But it just
you
feels
just
like
cut off an entire.
So far, PS5 has been a rehash of PS4, just with like a new element, which is like the SSD and the 60 FPS. That's what it feels like to me. It's like there's no new concepts for first party, I guess.
See, and I did not believe there was any new concepts in PS4 or Xbox.
Not new concepts like in gaming, all but like IPs. Not new. It doesn't even have to be new IPs as well, but like. Think back to PS4 with something like The Last of Us 2, Ragnarok, not Ragnarok, the first God of War, Ghost of Tsushima. Those were all kind of new things, right?
No. The Last of Us is Uncharted, but a horror game. I mean, The Last of Us literally is Uncharted, but switched to horror.
But it wasn't Yeah, but it wasn't like fuck, man. How do I even?
So here's the
how do I-
problem. I'm not even disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is once we get in those weeds,
Returnal is the only one I can think of.
Returnal
That's
is
like,
definitely a different thing for everyone. Not even a third
love
party's
this
done
one.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
so see, and I guess that's where we come to is that there's this weird, so there's also the discussion of you and I being around for a while, me longer than you. So if you when we start going back, I start saying I've seen everything because I have seen more than you. And so I think you already killed it by just saying Nintendo. Like you did, as in you killed that argument that they did. And then the only way to say it is, well, ignoring Nintendo, and now you start cutting it down to where the argument just doesn't make sense anymore as a whole. I would agree that we are getting third-person action. You and I have talked about PlayStation is pretty known, third-person open-world action adventure. I think that that's valid, but I think it's a better argument to say we're seeing more of those than we're seeing bad anything. Because if we put a cap on it, then we're trying to pretend Spider-Man 2 isn't good just because Spider-Man 2 is like Spider-Man 1, which to me is we're starting to get really weird. So
it just feels like the generational leap wasn't as big as...
it funneled almost funneled
it's
into
mostly
a particular
switching to 60 FPS and SSD stuff, which SSD stuff is amazing, but
it is. But I agree. Third person. One of my favorite games right now is Banishers, but it is just a third person action / RPG. You know what I mean?
With really well done acting and writing.
With really well done acting. So it's that's why I think it's instead of coming at it with some cap, we just say things are funneled in a particular way. And what I'm wondering is, we talked about this before, what can you do that's different? I believe Ratchet and Clank did try to do something different and failed. And that was...
Clank, did they fail?
Well,
the
failed
SSD thing.
In the delivery of different worlds, and it turned out to be much ado about nothing compared to what I think they sort of sold it as and what we all thought it was going to be, and it was still great. I love that game. That, if we look in the future, a game where that kind of stuff happens could be great. But I will say a third-party title that did something that I didn't like the game, but actually did something pretty cool, and that is Forgotten Lords with the Umbra, the different levels of the spirit world and the real world.
I didn't even try that game yet. Yeah. I never tried that game.
But again, if you take that out, what are you looking at? It is a Dark Souls game. Yeah. I mean, are there new genres to make? Returnal's pretty... It's not new, but it's...
I mean, Returnal is the first ever AAA roguelike, so there's that.
There's that, right? Yeah.
That's not a DLC and stuff. Obviously, we have Mooncrash and shit like that, but those are DLC. Yeah, Returnal is a very nice, fresh breath of fresh air, yeah.
I think sometimes this actually has nothing to do with first or third. It just has to do with the delivery of a unique title that does completely different stuff that does well because you nailed the new different stuff, which is hard as fuck. Because we have seen some games do crazy shit, and we played it and been like, whatever they were trying to do didn't work. I mean, even if you look at EVE Online, if you had told me that a spreadsheet was going to be a game, I would have been like, why would I ever want to take 40 hours to train a skill? But it worked. It took it a long time, but it worked. So, yeah, different strokes. Helldivers 2 isn't really anything new either. It's a co-op online, but it's doing phenomenally well. And sometimes we talk about
really good mechanics, they do. It's got good mechanics. It's obviously... Yeah, that's the thing. When I think of when someone asks me why do you like Helldivers, it's always, oh well, they have for example, some realistic elements like the mags and your limbs and stuff from military shooters like Arma, Tarkov, whatever. They have some of that. They have some of this from that game. They have some of this, and it all works well together. I guess it's the execution of all these different parts that could be borrowed from other games, but executed in a new, refreshing way. Probably, yeah. It doesn't have to be completely new.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be completely new. And I think also, again, it's just weird to say first party versus third when you have, 3,000 titles versus 21. It's a complete non-starter.
You're always going to have a smaller subset.
It's going to be ridiculously small. And you're also going to have first party, which has a different mindset on sales of your console, sales of, we know Spider-Man 2 was a flex. Come on. We know that they wanted to show the SSD stuff. That Spider-Man 2 starting it is a absolute flex, and
the overboard vibration shit,
oh god, yeah. Well, and that's a good point though. The the triggers, all that kind of stuff. They first party a lot of times especially those first games, they're going to want to push it, and they're going to want to be like, here's why this is special. And I would say that I haven't felt a huge change since the first. Once you got a third-person open world like GTA, San Andreas, or 3 was the first one, right? Once you got into that, what we've really seen is iterations of improvement of that. And you don't really see a different thing, because I'm not saying everything's been done, but they're not full games a lot of times. Like, look at the poker roguelike game that came out. Barato or whatever came out, got really good reviews. I mean, it's mixing two things we've seen. It's mixing two things we've seen before, and it's not a $60 game. It's like a $10 or $20 game. The only way for a first party to compete would be to say, we're not doing the big games. We're going to do these small games. So we've seen a couple do it. But it's just a weird comparison to me, because third party also releases on many consoles. And a lot of times they won't take particular advantage of the console because they want it on all consoles. So their things are different. I do think Returnal's pretty different, but it is a third-person shooter. It's just different speed, different style. But in the end, it is, sort of like somewhat the same kind of thing.
A good example of like taking different genres, combining them, is that Kingmaker game.
There we go. That's exactly what I was thinking in my head. I wanted to go there. Dude, you are so right. And what's so funny, Abzi, is no matter how excited I am about the game, I released a video on it. It only is a third-person shooter. It's just that they said
plus an RTS
making sense. Yeah. And it's just it's a conglomeration of all the other things. There's nothing new in it. It's just time travel, third-person shooter, RTS, strategy.
It's like stuff you think about. It's like that Stargate Atlantis episode where they were like playing that strategy game, and then they went down there on foot. You're gonna play a strategy game and then go there, mow people down.
It's the conversation you had with your friend at 3 a.m. when he stayed the night, and you're like, dude, what if a game had you time travel and you had Apaches versus dudes in armor? And that is exactly what it. Imagine that's what I would like, is some of these studios to say
the sheer amount.
Discussion? No, I was just going to say, it'd be great if a studio said, let's all talk about discussions we had as a kid, and they made a game. That is what that is.
Yeah.
What were we going to say?
The sheer amount of NPCs on screen, that impresses me a lot.
And they look good.
That's the type of stuff where people are like, what are some things that you would like to see over 60 FPS? Like if something's 30 FPS, it's stuff like this where you have like just a ton of people on screen, using up that CPU, bunch of ragdolls.
Do you know, speaking of a bunch of people on screen, if there is any big change in gaming, I believe this is underrepresented as a change in gaming, and that is Dead Rising zombie count. I still could not believe when I turned on Dead Rising that they had that many zombies, and it had never been done before, and I did not believe the screenshots. I was like, there's no chance you have that many characters on screen. It's just not possible. And that, to me, changed the way. How many times have we played a game that they say there's hordes or whatever, and there's 40 guys, or there's 15 guys, and you're like, dude, that's not a horde.
Plus, it depends on how good their AI is, right?
And it depends on how good their AI, which is what they got away with because of zombies, right? We know that. They move slow.
They just move. Yeah.
But I remember seeing pictures of Dead Rising, and Dead Rising started single-handedly the Red Ring. I mean, one of the first games that really caused the Red Ring was that game running at full speed. But I remember turning it on and being like, whoa, that is different. Because it was the same, but it actually represented the stories we always hear in games. Oh, there's a bunch of bad guys. How many is a bunch? Oh, 6. And you're like, all right, well, it's more normal. But that was hundreds. And you're like, what the shit? What is going on? This looks different than everything. So, in a way, Returnal and Dead Rising did the same thing for me. They are somewhat the same, but they did something so balls to the wall. They took some part of it and said, crank it to 11, and in Returnal, it's obviously the enemies and just the sheer anarchy. And then in Dead Rising, it's the number of enemies. And the crazy boss fights. And what about Dead Rising? You had the escort missions, but you also had crazy boss fights, which is something we've seen in other Capcom games. Had a very Capcom boss fight, Resident Evil vibe. Some of the characters with a weird, they always had the almost theatrical representation to them. Yeah, there's, a lot of it is just somebody taking something and like blowing one side of it out. And this new one, Kingmaker, is just like, it blows everything out. It's just like, did you see him go to the future? And there's like some emoji cat dropping coins at his feet or whatever.
Yeah, what is going on, man? What do you like? You go into the future now, like because
I'm
he went from
assuming
like a
that's where you
modern
do your
thing.
upgrades. Is that you go
Probably.
there and you're in the future,
You go
you're
back to
upgrading.
the, but I thought it was modern to past to future, but like maybe
no,
it's just
it is very future to past.
Okay, okay.
And here's
Okay.
the other thing, dude. Here's what I would love. What if it's in real time? So if you go to the future to upgrade, the battle's still happening.
Yeah, your guys are still fighting.
Yes.
Yeah. What if you have like a console on your desk in the future where you can control
you're
them?
watching it like an RTS
You're
or something,
watching-
maybe? You're
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
it
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, like
in
I'm just
the
gonna
past.
chill. I'm not gonna go down there. Maybe this
Dude,
is like
that'd be
a easy
sweet.
fight. I can. Yeah.
That'd be sweet. That game looked, I mean, obviously B level, AA level.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah.
they've showed that shields blowing off of guys. They
Kind
showed
of
they
like
were
Mountain Blade. You know, in a way.
exactly. That's what I was saying. Was it's got the numbers of Mountain Blade, the look of Mountain Blade. You know, it doesn't look AAA or whatever. But when he takes that Datsun, and what's so funny is I love how they opened like a real historical thing. They're like, we don't know where he came from, but he saved us. And you're like, okay, it's just, I'm going to be a king. And that fucking Datsun shows up and you're like, what is going on with this game? And then an Apache comes in and blows people away. He's a sniper guy was shooting the king. You're just like, dude.
You know, the first time I watched that trailer, like the latter half where you're going in and you're fighting, made me completely forget about the strategy aspect. And I'm like, oh, you just go and fight medieval people with your guns. And then I looked back and I was like, wait, no, it's you. You control them as well and stuff.
There's RTS and
city
strategy.
builder plus
yeah.
Plus,
That's
I love those hybrids, like the tooth and tail hybrids.
Yeah. Oh, again, this is one of the things we talked about is like if it does them well, well enough to like make it all feed together, that'll be a game. I was thinking when I first saw it was more esport, and what I was thinking by that is they said co-op, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if you both were trying to raise up different armies, and at the end, like it's you against your friend,
battle royale.
Yeah, like a battle royale, and I was like, oh, but that could be a mode. See, that's the thing. That could be a mod. Like there's all kinds of that is just it's not even a fresh. Again, I love it. It's not necessarily even a fresh idea because we have seen people do stuff. We've seen time travel. We've seen all that.
It's everyone's intrusive thoughts into a game or something.
Dude, it is everybody's 3 a.m. discussion as a kid.
Yeah.
Or when I used to sit up and you'd be like, well, what if the Romans met the samurai? Who would win? Or what if blah, blah, blah met blah, blah, blah? And you're now like, what if a
Monty
Datsun?
Python shit.
Yeah. What if a Datsun and an Apache went against 2,000 armored men? Would they have enough, would the arrows be able to jam up the road or what? I don't know what, but
like
it's
total
like this
accurate building battle simulator.
Battle
or whatever,
simulator, right? Well, and who knows? Maybe because it's Tiny Build did that too, didn't they? Did Tiny Build do totally accurate? Whatever.
Is that?
Because it's Tiny Build that's doing this. What do you guys think of that game? Did you guys like it as much as me? I was excited about it just for the sheer balls to the wall of it.
No, Totally Battle was Landfall games and 24-bit games.
Okay. Oh, some people brought up.
What did Tiny Bit do?
Some people were bringing up also that World War Z. Yeah, World War Z does great
Tiny
hordes,
boats.
but they're later. I was talking more at the starting, but yeah, great hordes in that. What were you saying?
I'm just looking at what Tiny Bytes did. I guess they did like mobile games and stuff.
Okay. Well, maybe they got that idea from, sometimes the flexibility and having to use a small CPU, get shit on a screen.
Or maybe it's
stuff.
all those like fake advertisements for these mobile games, Those really super fake. They're like, let's just make a game.
I can't pronounce Gipir. I can't pronounce your name. He says he says I wish Last Epoch could have had that level of animation. And then Terrence says Kingmaker looks surprisingly polished, and I would agree.
Yeah,
I would actually agree.
And it's weird you don't see any like hitching and weird performance issues.
And the FPS was pretty solid for a game that was doing that much with that many people. I mean, admittedly, it looked like the castle was resting in the center of a grassless glade sometimes, but we'll just have to see what it looks like. We'll have to see what they're trying to run it on, too. I'm assuming Xbox and PlayStation, not Xbox One and PlayStation 4 or something. But what else do we got? Oh, Great Ape says, how do you guys feel about two smaller releases in Alone in the Dark and Outcast also coming out? Those are also ones that could be lost pretty quickly.
Outcast is the one I'm more interested in.
Same. I mean, I'm interested in Alone in the Dark, but it looks pretty basic. If that makes sense. And Outcast looks like it's punching above its weight graphically.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gigantic's coming back. We know about that. Sony, PlayStation boss demands accountability on budget spending and development timelines. Guys, like I said in the last podcast, I don't know how many times we can sit here and hear companies saying stuff we've never thought they were going to say and not know that the industry is changing around us. The idea that they just called out Bungie in that form is pretty crazy. A lot of people talking about Last Epoch. A lot of people saying they can't get in.
Just play offline mode, probably.
Yeah, just play offline mode.
Don't even try. Yeah.
What else we got? Anything?
There's also a lot of games are coming to 1.0. I think that even this month there's like V Rising and the Forest game are coming to 1.0.
Sons of the Forest. Yeah, I heard
I'm
a lot
just
of people
happy that a
talking about
lot of games are coming to 1.0 faster than like the 2013 era. You know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And one day my dream will come true and there'll be no games released that aren't
Ever.
1.0. Ever. No games will ever come out. No,
Yeah.
I would love to get away from this, but it is great that you're seeing that. So, Kulaban says, Outcast demo on PS5 is so beautiful. Everything moves and sways, but the FPS is so bad. It's really bad. So let's hope they shore that up, because I know on the PC it actually had pretty good performance.
Did you hear,
it looked good as well.
FF Rebirth performance mode is blurry. I heard that. I didn't see
played it. The demo.
Oh shit! How was it that blurry?
Yeah, the demo
was it like FSR?
So I don't know. So remember the cottage cheese door in the original, right? So there's that, but in the demo and just looking around, there's it's a little like the old FXAA or FAA anti-aliasing.
Yeah.
And I think when I counted is I got to check with Digital Foundry. I don't know if they've done a video, but it looks like 1440p regardless, with more detail depending on which setting but it definitely looks blurry. It looks soft. Oh, not blurry. That's going too far. It looks soft, very soft, and
just put a sharpness filter, dude.
Yeah, you might have to turn the sharpness up in your TV. I mean, it may come to that point where you just, it might be a game that's like that. But some people, I was talking to the people in the chat yesterday, many who had played it, and even the big fans were like, whoa, here's the thing, dude. It's changing worlds, right? It's going away from the city into an open world environment. And the honest truth is, at some point, you run out of fill rate on something. You run out of CPU cycles on something or GPU fill rate somewhere. You're running out of something. And maybe that filter's on there to add something, but it seems odd that it's touched up that much. You know, like an Instagram filter that somebody might use where they touch up the whatever it is, the gossamer is what I call it, but it's sort of, everything looks really soft. That's definitely what it looks like. Anybody in chat, have you guys noticed that? Kulaban said, here we go. The FF17, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo is pretty blurry. Sometimes textures will pop in, but I haven't seen a whole bunch of that. I've also seen a lot of pop in that demo, especially on the videos I've been seeing online. So we'll just have to see. It's a bigger game. It's a open world. There's going to be caveats, man. There's going to be caveats. Oh, this sounds like pixel peeping. Normally, but you don't have to pixel peep to see blur. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think with pixel peeping and you notice a door, somebody may say, well, it's a door, I'm not going to look at it. But to see that door, you're now looking through blurriness, which is what people, including normal people who do not talk about tech, brought it up it was instantly in the Discord where people were asking me to fix their TV. The sharpness setting, because I helped Void. Void didn't know, but his TV, he had added blurring. So on a TV, I don't know about yours, but a lot of TVs will have a 1 to 100. But what they don't tell you is at 1 to 50, it's actually blurring, and at 50, it's 0.
50 to 100. Oh, okay.
So he had, and one day we were in chat super late at night, and I was like, dude, are you sure you don't have your settings right? And he went, he's like, it's like I got a CPU upgrade. What the hell just happened? I'm like, yeah, they add blurring. It just depends on the TV, but some TVs definitely make it softer halfway down. But yeah, so we'll just have to see how it goes out. It's going to be one of those games, I think, also that expectations are abnormally high because Final Fantasy VII is abnormally loved. Just because it's Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, okay.
You know? And I think everybody liked the first one. There were issues in it, but I think that people are just.
I'm like literally. I play these games for the combat mostly. I'm just like I like the DLC's combat a lot with like the Bond stuff and like the crazy combos and shit. It's all and some mini games. That's all I'm expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that the door versus blurry is noticeable.
Yeah,
and again, you may. I mean, just being brutally honest, you may want to look at your TV if you notice that and it's that way in the final game, and just go into your sharpness setting and tap it up too. Not crank it up. You get cut yourself. Anything else on here? Sony's default sharpness is 50. Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure that's the one he was on. I can't remember what it was because I looked it up in my manual for manufacturers. And because some manufacturers, 0 is 0, and they don't really blur the picture, and others, they blur it. It's just, damn. And they updated the demo today to fix something. I can't remember what it was, but some people were saying it's still like, well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
DLC was pointless, someone's saying.
Say, on which one?
And the DLC for FF7 was pointless. I don't know. I like the combat of that.
I thought a bunch of people liked it. That was brought up yesterday that people liked the DLC, and actually, that's interesting. Fun combat, maybe pointless in a story.
But I'm with those. Yeah. With FF7, like a story isn't as big to me as a lot of other people. So
exploration
maybe for me,
grandiose
I like the combat.
shit. Yeah. I can see that. All right, everybody in chat. First of all, thank you very much. Second, become a member if you want. Become a patron if you don't want to do either. I hope you have an awesome week. We'll be back on Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to discuss whatever games have reviews. I think Final Fantasy's reviews.
I'm gonna play Pacific Drive when it comes out tomorrow a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely do impressions for that.
Yeah,
for sure. And maybe some more news. Who knows? It's been a busy week. Peace out, everybody. Have an awesome week. That's it. Just have an awesome week.